Chapter 244. Hand over the sage's bones. B****. How dare you steal something right under our noses? Dozens of cultivators charged towards Chu Kuangren with their weapons. However, Chu Kuangren stood still. The descendant self-sword at his waist gently vibrated, and an extremely cold sword-based Daoist rhyme erupted, turning into sword qi along with spiritual power. The sword qi spread like a hurricane, and all the cultivators who charged towards Chu Kuangren were torn apart by the sword qi before they could even get within 3 meters of Chu Kuangren. When the others saw this, they sucked in a cold breath. What a powerful strength! Who is this person? Wait a minute, a beautiful ancient sword at his waist, coupled with his extraordinary temperament, could he be Chu Kuangren? When the name Chu Kuangren came out, everyone at the scene did not dare to act rashly. They all retreated to the side. Meanwhile, the previous owner of the yin and yang ring, the young cultivator who had his arm cut off in the battle, walked towards Chu Kuangren. Brother Chu, thank you for your help. In the future, I will definitely pay you a visit to thank you. Thank you. As he spoke, he reached out his hand. Chu Kuangren frowned. What are you doing? Brother Chu, shouldn't you return my yin and yang ring to me? The young man said in disbelief. This yin and yang ring is my trophy, why should I return it to you? After all, if Chu Kuangren had not taken the yin and yang ring, this young man would have died for sure. Now, this young man wanted to take the sage's remains from Chu Kuangren, which made him feel a little ridiculous. The sage's remains belonged to those who were capable. If this young man was strong enough, it would not be a problem for him to take the remains. However, he was ambitious but weak. The young man's expression changed, and he said angrily, is the Black Heaven sect leader going to steal other people's belongings like this? You're being unreasonable. Chu Kuangren shook his head and casually struck out with his palm. An extremely violent Daoist rhyme turned into an ancient godly mountain, and with a boom, the young man was blasted into a cloud of blood mist. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect Chu Kuangren to be so decisive. Is there anyone else who wants this sage's remains? Chu Kuangren calmly swept his gaze across the crowd. The strongest cultivator among them was only an honorable. In front of Chu Kuangren, who could slay a sage, they were just like ants. How would they dare to compete with him? Since the saint's skeleton has fallen into Brother Chu's hands, we naturally don't dare to fight with you. Goodbye. Being able to witness fellow Daoist Chu's elegant demeanor today is also a fortunate thing. This trip was not in vain. Sect leader Chu is indeed as the rumors say. You have the talent of a celestial being. I'm convinced. This sage's remains should be yours. I just remembered that I have something to do at home. Goodbye. What? Wife, you're about to give birth. I'll go back now. Some of them complimented Chu Kuangren, while some of them took out their communication compass and pretended to be having a conversation. After that, they left the scene one after another. These people would not dare to fight with Chu Kuangren even if they were given 10 guts. Chu Kuangren used his spiritual thought to scan the entire Lu Kingdom palace. After finding nothing, he left the ancient city and headed towards the ancient battlefield's core area. Ancient battlefield, core area. This was a place that even the sages were extremely afraid of. The density of ferocious qi here was more than 10 times that of the ancient battlefield's inner zone. High-level tormented souls could be seen almost everywhere. Chu Kuangren felt a little uncomfortable when he stepped into it. He had to channel his spiritual power to counteract the discomfort. He activated his treasure locating skill. Chu Kuangren then began to search for some treasures nearby. There's a sage weapon 300 kilometers ahead. His eyes lit up as his figure turned into a stream of light and arrived at the location of the sage weapon. The sage weapon was buried in a sand dune. Chu Kuangren lifted his arm and unleashed a surge of spiritual qi. The sand dune exploded. A crimson longsword was blasted out. Although this holy sword was covered in rust, it was still suffused with strands of sharp sword qi, causing others to feel fear at the sight of it. Chu Kuangren held the sacred sword and channeled his spiritual power into it. Instantly, the rust on the sacred sword peeled off, revealing a bright red blade. Two small words were engraved on the blade's edge. Blood execution. Sacred sword blood execution. Chu Kuangren smiled in satisfaction as he tossed the sacred sword into the sacred emerald sword case to be nurtured. Then, he continued to search the core area. Although this place was much more dangerous than the inner zone and the outer zone, there were many opportunities of fortune as well. In just half a day, Chu Kuangren had already obtained 2 sage weapons and 7 to 8 supreme weapons. This ancient battlefield is a natural treasure trove. Chu Kuangren exclaimed. Suddenly, a strange fluctuation came from his yin and yang ring. Puzzled, he took out a wooden box and opened it. What he saw was the source of ferocious qi rumbling inside. What's going on? Just as Chu Kuangren was puzzled, he suddenly felt an extremely violent murderous intent coming from behind him. His expression changed slightly as he unsheathed the long sword at his waist. A sword ray slashed towards his back. The sword ray collided with a saber ray that was condensed from ferocious qi. It exploded in the void and set off a terrifying shockwave. Even Chu Kuangren could not help but take a few steps back. This energy belongs to a sage. He sensed that the ferocious qi contained a surge of sage Daoist rhyme. Not far away, a tormented soul with a black longsword in its hand and a body shrouded in black ferocious qi was staring at him. Kill, kill, give me the innate ferocious qi, as the tormented soul murmured, the ferocious qi on its body became denser and denser. Then, it charged towards Chu Kuangren. With a swing of its longsword, the pitch-black sword ray almost covered all the light in the world. A ferocious and domineering Daoist rhyme locked onto Chu Kuangren. Facing a tormented soul with the combat strength of a sage, Chu Kuangren did not dare to be careless. He swung his descendant self-sword and a majestic purple sword ray shot out. The collision of the two energies caused the void to rumble again. For seasoned sword formation. Chu Kuangren took out the sacred emerald sword case. One by one, the longswords flew out and quickly formed into an incredibly mysterious 4-seasons sword formation. Within the sword formation, the 4 seasons alternated and the power of nature manifestation erupted. Compared to a year ago, Chu Kuangren's current cultivation level had reached the late-stage honorable realm. He was only a step away from becoming an honorable. The sword formation that he had cast was so powerful that it killed the sage-level tormented soul in just a dozen breaths' time. Accompanied by a piercing howl, the sage-level tormented soul turned into smoke and dissipated, leaving behind only a black mist. Another source of ferocious qi. Chu Kuangren frowned as he grabbed the source of ferocious qi in his hand. Compared to the source of ferocious qi that he obtained from purging the million-strong tormented army, this source of ferocious qi was much smaller. As if he had a stroke of luck, he placed this source of ferocious qi into the wooden box and merged it with another source of ferocious qi. In an instant, that source of ferocious qi flew into Chu Kuangren's body. Then, a message exploded in his mind. Infallible tormented physique. It's the infallible tormented physique, one of the top 10 physiques among the 3,000 physiques. Chu Kuangren was surprised. It turned out that this source of ferocious qi had another name. The innate ferocious qi. This innate ferocious qi had many magical uses, and the most powerful one was that it could allow one to cultivate the infallible tormented physique. Moreover, it was the kind of infallible tormented physique that could be directly mastered. Once such a physique was mastered, even a sage could be killed easily. Chapter 245. However, I've only integrated 2 surges of innate ferocious qi, which is only the initial stage of the infallible tormented physique. My progress is about 3%, so I still have a long way to go before I can achieve full mastery, Chu Kuangren murmured. However, he was not in a hurry. Based on the information contained in the innate ferocious chi, the ancient battlefield's core area had nurtured many surges of innate ferocious chi over the years. As long as he slowly collected them, he could eventually achieve full mastery of the infallible tormented physique. Of course, other than him, the tormented souls in the core area were also interested in the innate ferocious chi. They were tormented souls, so the innate ferocious chi was extremely useful to them. It could even help them develop spiritual intelligence. Chu Kuangren could not help but think of the white-robed general. Could he be a tormented soul that had developed spiritual intelligence? He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Then, he continued to search the ancient battlefield's core area, using his treasure-locating skill to collect innate ferocious chi. The treasure-locating skill could not find some of the innate ferocious chi that had already been integrated, but there were still ownerless innate ferocious chi in the ancient battlefield. Chu Kuangren spent the next 3 days in the ancient battlefield's core area, and he managed to collect a few surges of innate ferocious chi. However, none of them were as concentrated as the one he obtained when he purified the million-strong tormented army. Nevertheless, he managed to push his infallible tormented physique to 5%, increasing his combat strength. Another surge of innate ferocious chi. Using his treasure-locating skill, Chu Kuangren found a surge of innate ferocious chi 3,000 kilometers away from him, so he immediately rushed over. However, before he could get close, he sensed a terrifying energy fluctuation. Someone was fighting at the location of the innate ferocious chi. He slowed down, hit his aura, and cautiously approached. This was the ancient battlefield's core area, where danger lurked everywhere. The energy fluctuation he sensed was definitely at the level of a sage. He did not dare to be too conspicuous in this place. When he got closer to the center of the energy fluctuation, he noticed 2 figures fighting. Terrifying ferocious chi that contained sage Daoist rhymes were violently clashing against each other, causing the void to tremble. When he looked closer, he realized that one of the 2 figures was an old man in a black robe, and the other was a huge ape with red eyes and black fur all over its body. Humph, you're just a mindless tormented soul. Even if you have the combat strength of a sage, how can you fight me? The black-robed old man harumphed coldly and punched out. A terrifying Daoist rhyme erupted from his skinny body, mixing with the baleful aura to form a gigantic fist that smashed the ape into the ground. Chu Kuangren's heart skipped a beat as he witnessed this scene from the shadows. This black-robed old man was also a tormented soul. However, he possessed intelligence. How many strands of innate ferocious chi had he fused with? If he could absorb the innate ferocious chi in his body, then his infallible tormented body would definitely make great progress. Thinking of this, he secretly compared the strength of both sides. Sages were divided into ordinary sages, great sages, and king sages. Even within the same realm, there were still differences in strength. Therefore, the sages roughly divided each realm into 7 steps. First step sage, second step sage. First step great sage, second step great sage. The first step was the most ordinary, while the 7th step was the most powerful. Based on Chu Kuangren's senses, this black-robed old man's combat strength was roughly equivalent to a 3-step sage, which was slightly stronger than the Murong clan sage. However, he was able to kill the saint of the Murong clan a year ago. What more a year later? I can win. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. After the black-robed old man killed the ape-tormented soul and obtained the innate ferocious chi, Chu Kuangren made his move. He took out the sacred emerald sword case and 365 swords flew out. What? The black-robed old man was shocked. He did not expect to be ambushed so suddenly. Faced with the 4-seasoned sword formation that was filled with majestic sword chi and Daoist rhymes, the black-robed old man hurriedly unleashed a punch with his ferocious chi. The black fist landed on the sword formation and shattered the sword chi. However, the swords scattered in all directions and surrounded the black-robed old man. D***mn it. The energy of this sword formation is very strong. The black-robed old man instantly determined that he was no match for this sword formation, so he immediately released a wisp of black ferocious chi from his fingertip. Before the sword formation was fully formed, he slipped out of the gap and flew far away. He then looked at the sword formation's owner. When he saw the owner's face, not only was he shocked by his appearance, but he was also shocked by his identity. This energy. Is it a living person? A living person has entered the ancient battlefield's core area, and his cultivation level is only, at the honorable realm? The black-robed old man found it hard to believe. An honorable could activate a sword formation of this level and enter the ancient battlefield's core area. Young lad, this must be your first time in the core area. Do you know that there are 3 beings in the core area that you must not provoke? My master is one of them, so you better kill. Before the black-robed old man could finish his sentence, Chu Kuangren had already activated the 4 Seasons sword formation and unleashed its most terrifying sword-based Daoist rhyme. Chu Kuangren could tell that the black-robed old man was trying to buy time, although he did not know when he had called for backup. However, given the current situation, he needed to end this battle quickly. The 4 Seasons sword formation unleashed its full power, and the terrifying and mysterious sword chi suppressed the black-robed old man within a few breaths. D****. Young lad, if you dare to kill me, I will definitely. The black-robed old man's eyes were filled with fear. The power of this sword formation was more terrifying than he had imagined. Before he could finish his sentence, the 4 seasons within the sword formation began to rotate, and the sun and moon alternated. The power of nature then transformed into a multicolored greatsword that smashed down. With a boom, the terrifying sword chi swept out, and the black-robed old man was instantly smashed into pieces by the great sword. When the sword chi dissipated, Chu Kuangren rushed into the sword formation and collected the remaining innate ferocious chi in the air. The concentration of the innate ferocious chi was more than what he had collected in the past few days. He estimated that it could at least boost his infallible tormented physique to about 10%. He kept the innate ferocious chi and was about to leave. But at this moment, an incomparably terrifying aura immediately locked onto him, and a black finger stretched across the sky. The surging ferocious chi swept through the clouds and shook the heavens and earth. Even Chu Kuangren could not help but be shocked by this attack. The Descendant Self sword was unsheathed from his waist, and the 6 supreme foundation levels within his body radiated with a dazzling divine light. The golden jade body activated, the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, and the ferocious chi from the infallible tormented physique were activated. The purple sword ray was boundless, and it contained a surge of Emperor's aura. The sword collided with the giant finger that was coming at him. The 2 energies entangled and collided, forming a terrifying shockwave that even Chu Kuangren could not help but be pushed back hundreds of feet. His expression was extremely solemn. The owner of that giant finger was definitely the strongest enemy he had ever encountered. He took out a jade talisman and was ready to crush it. That was one of the prizes he had obtained in the past year. It was called the Great Shift Talisman, which contained spatial energy and could instantly teleport him hundreds of thousands of miles away. That was also one of the reasons why he dared to enter the core area. Even if he encountered any danger that he could not resist, he could still leave at any time. Chapter 246. Chu Kuangren stared into the distance. A 3-meter-tall figure stepped through the air, his body emanating a murderous aura that was many times stronger than the black-robed elders. It was a middle-aged man with a dignified face. His 3-meter-tall body made him look like a giant. Coupled with his terrifying ferocious chi, Chu Kuangren felt an immense pressure that he had never experienced before. Runes of the Great Tao circulated in his eyes as the Eye of Revelation activated. Giant Tormented Sage Monarch, one of the 3 kings of the ancient battlefield. He's a tormented spirit formed from the combination of the ancient battlefield's baleful aura and the resentment of the sages when they died. He contains a large amount of innate baleful aura, 10 times more than ours. 10 times? If he absorbed 10 times the innate ferocious qi, he could push his infallible tormented body to more than 50%. Of course, while his thoughts were plentiful, reality was harsh. His opponent was a saint king, and with his meager cultivation level, he was no match for him. I can't believe there's a sage ruler in the ancient battlefield. TSK, what a surprise, Chu Kuangren muttered. However, after giving it some thought, it made sense. After all, this was the ancient battlefield, one of the 10 great forbidden areas of Firmament Star. It wouldn't be too much to have any existences, right? Kid, as a venerable, it's not easy for you to have such strength. I'm afraid you're also a famous figure in the outside world. Giant Fiend Sage Emperor Chu Kuangren said. Then, murderous intent shot out from his eyes. But this is the ancient battlefield. You killed my subordinates and stole my innate ferocious qi. Based on these 2 points, no one in this world can save you. After saying that, he raised his hand, and a murderous aura circulated on his fingertips. An incomparably terrifying sage Daoist rhyme circulated. Chu Kuangren judged that he might not be able to withstand that finger attack. If he took it head-on, he could only rely on his immortal body to recover. Just as he was about to crush the greater teleportation talisman and leave, a black spear suddenly flew towards him like a bolt of lightning. That spear had locked onto Giant Torment Sage King. Giant Tormented Sage's expression froze, and his eyes were filled with fear. The finger that was supposed to be aimed at Chu Kuangren landed on the spear instead. With a boom, a terrifying power erupted. The void was almost distorted. The Sage King-level Daoist rhyme collided with each other, and it was incomparably terrifying. Under this impact, Giant Torment Sage Monarch's huge body was pushed back a few steps, and the black spear was sent flying. In the end, it was caught by a fair arm. Looking towards the direction of the spear, Chu Kuangren saw a familiar figure. He was dressed in a long white robe and his face was covered by a mask, revealing only a pair of deep, pitch-black eyes that were devoid of any emotion. This person was the legend of the ancient battlefield, the white-robed general. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation when he saw this person again. Baian, the former general of the Tranquil Kingdom, one of the 3 kings of the ancient battlefield, also known as the White-Robed General, a legend passed down by the adventurers, due to the innate ferocious aura that entered his physical body after his death. He's now a living dead that's somewhere between a tormented soul and a human. The innate malevolent qi in his body is 10 times stronger than mine. A series of messages came in. Some of Chu Kuangren's doubts were finally answered. No wonder this person saluted me after I released the millions of tormented souls. It turned out that this person was really a general of the Kingdom. White-robed general, why did you attack? Giant Torment Sage Ruler questioned the white-robed general with fear in his eyes. Among the 3 kings of the ancient battlefield, the white-robed general was the weakest. He was alone, but no one dared to look down on him. The other 2 kings were even more fearful of him. This person was the most unique existence among the 3 kings. He was neither a tormented soul nor a human, but somewhere in between. His combat strength was terrifying. You can't kill this person, the white-robed general said. His voice was very magnetic, with a hint of coldness. Why? Giant Torment Sage Ruler was a little surprised. The white-robed general had been wandering around the ancient battlefield for many years. Apart from fighting for innate ferocious qi, he had never taken the initiative to intervene in anything. The other 2 sage rulers also turned a blind eye to this, but they did not expect the white-robed general to attack for Chu Kuangren today. I owe him a favor, the white-robed general said. Giant Torment Sage Ruler was stunned. After all, the white-robed general was no weaker than him. What could Chu Kuangren have done for him to be indebted to him? You've released the souls of my soldiers, and I'm deeply grateful for that. Take this with you. Once you're out of the core area, they won't be able to do anything to you. The white-robed general took out a black crystal and said. Giant Torment Sage Ruler's eyes widened when he saw that black crystal. That's an innate ferocious crystal. I can't believe you have an innate ferocious crystal. White Robe General, are you crazy? How can you give something like this to an honorable? Giant Torment Sage Ruler could not control his emotions and roared. He looked at the innate ferocious crystal with greed in his eyes. The fact that a sage ruler would be so moved showed how precious this innate ferocious crystal was. Chu Kuangren looked at the White Robe General in surprise before he kept the innate ferocious enchantment. The moment he received the innate ferocious crystal, his expression froze. He finally understood why the Giant Torment Sage Ruler would lose his composure. The innate ferocious qi contained within the innate ferocious crystal. It was comparable to the total amount in Giant Torment Sage Ruler's body. One day. Wait for me for a day once you're out of the core area. If I don't find you within a day, you may leave on your own, the White Robe General said. All right. Chu Kuangren nodded. After that, he turned into a stream of light and flew into the distance. Not long after he left, an incredibly terrifying aura erupted from behind him. Two surges of energy that could shake half of the ancient battlefield collided, and it was as if the heavens and earth were about to shatter. Chu Kuangren cast the phantom light strike at an extremely fast speed. Like a stream of light, he quickly headed out of the core area. I'm finally out. Ancient battlefield, inner zone. Chu Kuangren had just left the core area. He stopped at the edge of the core area and peered inside. Countless ferocious tormented souls were roaring at him. These were the tormented souls that the Giant Torment Sage Ruler had sent to hunt him down. There were even a few sage-level existences among them. If it were not for his powerful strength and his phantom light strike, which specialized in speed, he would have been torn to shreds by these tormented souls. Although he would recover, it was still very painful. As expected, these tormented souls can't leave the core area. Chu Kuangren looked at the tormented souls that could only roar at him from afar. Any one of these tormented souls in the inner zone would be at the level of the inner zone's 10 tormented. Unfortunately, they were trapped in the core area. There seems to be some kind of restriction. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued, and he began to study why these tormented souls could not leave the core area. Gradually, he discovered something. The ferocious qi on these tormented souls was connected to the earth qi in the core area. The stronger the ferocious qi, the closer the connection to the earth qi. It was because of this connection that they could not leave the core area. They were like earthbound souls. The tormented souls in the inner zone and the outer zone don't have this characteristic. It seems like it's because of the Sage War that the Eternal Sage Ruler mentioned. That Sage War set up a huge formation. It must be that formation that changed the characteristics of the ancient battlefield's core area's earth qi. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Chapter 247. Ancient Battlefield, Inner Circle. Chu Kuangren fiddled with a black crystal in his hand. This crystal was irregularly shaped, and it contained a dense amount of innate ferocious qi. It was more than 10 times more than the amount in Chu Kuangren's body. What a treasure! Chu Kuangren smirked. If he could absorb the innate ferocious crystal, he would be able to push his infallible tormented body to the greater success stage and above. At that time, the combat power that he would be able to unleash would be extremely terrifying. Coupled with other techniques, ordinary sages would not be a match for him at all. However, there was still a huge gap between them and the likes of Giant Torment Sage King. Even though his innate ferocious aura was similar to Giant Fiend Sage Monarch's after merging with the innate ferocious crystal, Giant Fiend Sage Monarch had spent countless years in the ancient battlefield and absorbed countless ferocious auras. It wasn't as simple as possessing innate ferocious aura. Why isn't the White Robe General out yet? Chu Kuangren murmured as he looked at the ancient battlefield's core area. At this moment, a strong wave of murderous aura came from behind him. A saber light that was as fast as a meteor suddenly swept over. Chu Kuangren retaliated with a backhand slap and activated the human mountain stamp. A violent surge of human mountain energy forcefully shattered the saber ray. He looked into the distance and saw a tormented soul wielding a long saber flying towards him. It was one of the inner zone's 10 tormented, the saber wielder. Other than the wielder saber, there was also a tormented spirit in the shape of a tiger and a huge black worm that was squirming on the ground like a small hill. They were the tiger fiend and insect fiend of the inner zone's 10 ferocious beasts. Other than that, there were also a large number of high-level tormented souls. Chu Kuangren was stunned for a moment. Why are there so many tormented souls? Suddenly, he came back to his senses and looked at the innate ferocious crystal in his hand. Was it attracted by the innate ferocious crystal? The innate ferocious chi was undoubtedly a great opportunity for tormented souls, as it could even help them develop sentience. Not to mention this crystal that contained a strong innate ferocious aura. He guessed that all the tormented souls in the inner zone were rushing towards him. Chu Kuangren tossed the innate ferocious crystal into the air twice before he kept it into his yin and yang ring. He smiled and said, "How dare a bunch of puny fiends act so presumptuously?" Even the sage-level tormented souls in the core zone could not do anything to him, let alone the tormented souls in the inner zone. The anomaly of the tormented souls in the inner circle had attracted the attention of countless adventurers, especially since they had just experienced the terrifying scene of the million-strong tormented army. Now that he saw the tormented souls acting strangely, he could not help but feel a little terrified. What's going on? Have these tormented souls gone mad? It can't be. Don't tell me they're going to be like the million-strong tormented army and charge out of the ancient battlefield to wreak havoc on the world? The ancient battlefield has been quiet for so many years. It's only been a few days. Why are there so many strange occurrences? Something's not right. Look, the tormented souls are heading towards the ancient battlefield's core area. What's going on? Let's go take a look. Some cultivators pondered for a moment, and then they couldn't restrain their curiosity and intended to head over to see exactly what had caused the baneful spirits to move. It didn't take long for them to approach the central area. All those who dared to come here possessed considerable strength, and the weakest amongst them was at the Exalt realm. Look, there's a person over there. Someone in the crowd exclaimed. A white dot appeared in their vision, and that white dot was the target of countless tormented souls. That white dot belonged to a person. It was a man dressed in a white, wide-sleeved robe with a magnificent longsword hanging from his waist. His aura was ethereal and otherworldly. It's Chu Kuangren. Someone in the crowd recognized Chu Kuangren. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Why is he here? Wait a minute, he seems to be the target of these tormented souls. What did he do to make so many tormented souls target him? Look, those are the tormented saber tormented, tormented insect tormented, tormented giant demonic tormented, and a few others from the inner zone's 10 tormented. I can't believe these terrifying existences are here. Can Chu Kuangren handle them all by himself? The tormented souls had gathered in groups, and there were even countless high-level tormented souls among them. Almost all of the inner zone's 10 tormented were present as well. Their ferocious chi swept across the area, and their formation was not any weaker than the million-strong tormented army from before. Compared to them, Chu Kuangren seemed very small and insignificant. Don't you guys forget that he's Chu Kuangren. One of the cultivators took a deep breath and said in a serious tone. The others fell silent upon hearing that. If it were any other cultivator standing in front of these tormented souls, or even if it were an army of tens of thousands of cultivators, they would not think that they had any chance of winning. However, Chu Kuangren was different. He alone could defeat an army of tens of thousands. Everyone stared at Chu Kuangren, wanting to see how he would deal with them. However, he did something that shocked everyone. He gently raised his hand, and the sand on the ground floated up before him before it condensed into a chair. Just like that, Chu Kuangren leisurely sat on the chair as the countless tormented souls approached him. His action shocked many of the cultivators at the scene. After all, they were already so frightened by the countless tormented souls' ferocious qi that their faces turned pale just by looking at them. However, Chu Kuangren remained so calm even when facing these tormented souls. He's actually sitting down. Some of them said in disbelief. Some of them rubbed their eyes, wondering if they were hallucinating. At that moment, something even more shocking happened. Chu Kuangren sat on the sand chair and snapped his fingers. Then, surges of sword qi emerged from his body and turned into clones. These clones were formed from sword qi and looked exactly like Chu Kuangren. Sword qi and Daoist rhyme surrounded their bodies. What technique is this? Oh my god, there are so many clones. Everyone was in disbelief. However, the scene in front of them was very real. Chu Kuangren sat on the sand chair and cast the sword qi transformation technique to form 200 clones that charged towards the countless tormented souls in front of him. These 200 sword qi clones formed a terrifying sword qi defensive line. For a moment, not a single tormented soul could break through it. I'm waiting for someone anyway, so I might as well play with you guys. Chu Kuangren sat on the sand chair and crossed his legs as he said. Perhaps he felt that the 200 sword qi clones were not that powerful. He took out the sacred emerald sword case and threw out one long sword after another. With the addition of the sword qi clones and the treasured swords, Chu Kuangren's combat strength increased tremendously. In the air, the cultivators who had just arrived were dumbfounded. It was their first time witnessing a battle like this. Chu Kuangren was sitting comfortably while he sent out hundreds of sword qi clones to sweep the battlefield. So this is the peerless Chu Kuangren? What kind of terrifying strength is this? By the heavens, I thought one of his sword qi clones could easily kill me. I can't believe he can create hundreds of them. Is he still human? Everyone was dumbfounded. Roar! One of the inner zone 10 tormented, the tormented saber wielder, let out a furious roar and charged towards Chu Kuangren. Not only the tormented saber wielder, but the other inner zone 10 tormented had also broken through the defensive line. After all, there was a limit to the strength of 200 sword qi clones, no matter how strong they were. The inner zone 10 tormented were honorable supremes after all. Is Chu Kuangren's real body going to attack? I think so. With the tormented saber wielder as the leader, the inner zone 10 tormented charged towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren's body moved a little on the sand chair. Just when everyone thought he was going to get up to fight the inner zone 10 tormented, they saw that he was still sitting there. All he did was move his but a little. He slowly raised his right hand and gently pressed it towards the inner zone 10 tormented. In the void, a terrifying spiritual power mixed with earth qi formed a majestic godly mountain that suddenly pressed down on the tormented saber wielder and the other inner zone 10 tormented. Boom! The ground erupted with a loud explosion and shook. Chapter 248. Boom! A terrifying explosion erupted from the ground. The entire ground shook as the majestic godly mountain descended from the sky, its violent energy stirring up a sandstorm. When the godly mountain dissipated, the tormented saber wielder, tormented insect, and the other inner zone 10 tormented had already turned into smoke. They had all been destroyed by Chu Kuangren with a single slap. Everyone gulped. What else could they say when they were destroyed with a single slap? Those are the inner zone 10 tormented. Even an honorable supreme would not dare to underestimate them, yet they were destroyed with a single slap. F***ck, his strength is too terrifying. This guy is a monster. None of the known sage orthodoxy's sect leaders have the same combat strength as Chu Kuangren, right? D***m, no wonder he's able to kill a sage. Chu Kuangren yawned as he sat on the sand chair. Even if it was to kill time, these tormented souls were just too weak. He could not even feel the slightest bit of interest in them. Suddenly, he felt a familiar ferocious qi fluctuation behind him and smirked. someone interesting is here. He slowly got up. Then, a surge of compassionate Daoist rhyme emanated from his body, and a Buddhist light surged out from his body in all directions. Amidst the Buddhist light, a giant golden Buddha stood between the heavens and the earth. In an instant, golden lotuses sprouted from the ground, and Sanskrit chants filled the void. Countless tormented souls melted under the Buddhist light like snow under the scorching sun. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. The crowd of cultivators was shocked when they saw this. Some of them had seen the Tathagata rebirth mantra before, but they were still shocked when they saw this majestic ancient Buddha again. How did he create this Buddha? It's too powerful. This technique is too terrifying. The Thunder Temple is the most respected Buddhist sect in the Azure Dragon domain, but even they do not have such a terrifying technique. There's an emperor's aura. This is an emperor technique. Where did this guy get so many powerful cultivation techniques from? I've never heard of it in the Black Heaven sect before. In the Firmament Star, sage ruler techniques were already very rare. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, had one emperor technique after another. How were the other cultivators supposed to survive? Look, someone is coming out from the core region. Everyone was immersed in the shock brought about by the Tathagata rebirth mantra. At this moment, someone cried out in surprise, pulling everyone back from their thoughts and looking in the direction of the core region. Over there really was a figure wearing a white robe and holding a spear in his hand. His face was covered with a mask as he walked over. The core zone had always been the most dangerous place in the ancient battlefield, but no one had ever seen anyone walk out of it. Today was the first time he had done so. Not only that, but the person who walked out shocked everyone because they were all too familiar with this person's appearance. White robe, long spear, face armor, wasn't this the white robe general that the adventurers had been talking about? The white robe general. It's the white robe general. Oh my god, this ghost story is real. There really are white robe generals in this world. Everyone exclaimed endlessly with shock, and they stared fixedly at the white robe general. After Chu Kuangren had used the Tathagata rebirth mantra to eliminate all the tormented souls, he retracted his Buddhist light and turned to look at the white robe general. He smiled faintly, and with a wave of his hand, a sand chair appeared in front of him. "Senior, please take a seat." The white robe general was the Tranquil Kingdom's general from tens of thousands of years ago, and his strength was comparable to a sage ruler. Hence, it was not wrong to address him as senior. The white robe general nodded slightly and sat in front of Chu Kuangren. The crowd of cultivators was even more dumbfounded when they saw the two of them sitting together. They could not understand how Chu Kuangren and the white robe general got to know each other. "Senior, did you save me because of the million-strong tormented army?" Chu Kuangren asked directly after he took his seat. Although he already knew the answer, he still asked anyway. After all, there was no better way to start a conversation than this. "That's right." The white robe general nodded. "I used to be their general. Tens of thousands of years ago, the Tranquil Kingdom and the Lu Kingdom went to war. In order to win, the Tranquil Kingdom's king did not hesitate to steal the source of ferocious qi. Through a sacrificial ritual, he turned a million-strong army into tormented souls. I tried to stop him, but I failed." "Then how did you end up like this?" "I was sentenced to death by the Tranquil Kingdom's king because of this, but my body was brought here by the Lu Kingdom's princess. She used some kind of secret technique to attract the source of ferocious qi into my body in an attempt to resurrect me. However, even though my consciousness was restored, my body could not move. It was only 1,000 years later that I ended up like this." "It was the Lu Kingdom's princess who saved you?" "Yes, she's my lover." Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up when he heard that. He immediately imagined a tragic love story of a general falling in love with the enemy kingdom's princess. "After I awakened, I've been absorbing ferocious qi in the core area for almost 1,000 years. That's why I'm connected to the earth qi here. Although I'm not trapped here like the other tormented souls, I can't be too far away. All these years, I've been wandering around this ancient battlefield, trying to find the million-strong tormented army, but to no avail. It was only when the Lu Kingdom reappeared a few days ago that I sensed something. After that, I saw you purging them, the white-robed general said. I see. What about this then? Chu Kuangren took out the innate ferocious crystal. You've merged with the source of ferocious qi, which is the innate ferocious qi, and formed the infallible tormented physique. This innate ferocious crystal will be of great use to you. This is a thank you gift for purging the army. In that case, it would be impolite of me to reject it. Chu Kuangren had no intention of rejecting it. Besides that, I have one more thing that I need your help with. Please do tell, Senior. I can sense that my bloodline is still alive. I hope you can help me find them and take care of them, the white-robed general said. Senior, if your bloodline is still alive, could it be that the princess isn't dead? She's probably dead. Otherwise, she would have come looking for me. At the mention of that, a hint of sorrow seeped out of the white-robed general's body that was filled with ferocious qi. Although she's dead, I can't rule out the possibility that she escaped before the Lu Kingdom was destroyed, leaving behind our bloodline. Otherwise, without the Lu clan's ancient sword, how could anyone break through the enchanted boundary of the Lu Kingdom? The Lu clan's ancient sword? That's right. The Lu clan's ancient sword is required to enter the enchanted boundary of the Lu Kingdom, and only the Lu Kingdom's royal family owns this ancient sword. Hence, if the royal family didn't survive that war, how could the Lu clan's ancient sword still be around? It seems that Shang Han and the others entered the Lu Kingdom through the Lu clan's ancient sword. So where did they get the Lu clan's ancient sword from? Chu Kuangren thought to himself. He did not agree to the white-robed general's request right away. After all, the chances of finding a bloodline in this vast sea of people were too slim. If you help me find my bloodline, I'll help you hunt tormented souls in the ancient battlefield and collect the innate ferocious qi. The white-robed general said. Ahem, actually, since you've helped me so much, it's only natural for me to do something for you. Just leave the search for your bloodline to me, Chu Kuangren said with a smile. All right then. The white-robed general took out a jade pendant and handed it to Chu Kuangren. This is a token of love between me and the princess. If it's my bloodline, this jade pendant will react. Perhaps it can help you. Chu Kuangren took the jade pendant. I'll do my best. Farewell. The white-robed general got up and walked towards the core area behind him. Tormented souls gave way wherever he went. It was obvious that they were very afraid of the white-robed general. Chapter 249. Chu Kuangren kept the jade pendant and left the ancient battlefield. Along the way, he did not encounter any tormented souls. It was obvious that most of the tormented souls were attracted by the innate ferocious crystal and were destroyed by him. However, as long as the ancient battlefield's resentment and ferocious qi did not dissipate, the tormented souls would be endless. All it would take was some time for them to reform. Master, you're back. Back at Sun's Oil City, Lan Yu's eyes lit up when he saw Chu Kuangren. Yes. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. In the next few days, he began to refine the innate ferocious crystal. This item was extraordinary as it contained an extremely dense amount of innate ferocious qi. After refining it, his infallible tormented physique had made great progress. On this day, he had completely refined the innate ferocious crystal. A terrifying ferocious qi erupted from his body and rushed into the sky. Its domineering aura swept across half of Sun's Oil City. All the cultivators were shocked when they sensed the ferocious qi. What a terrifying ferocious qi! There's no resentment from the tormented souls in this ferocious qi. It's not a tormented soul, not a tormented soul? Then what kind of existence could it be? I've never seen such a pure ferocious qi in the ancient battlefield for so many years. Where did it come from? The ferocious qi swept across the sky and waves of violent Daoist rhymes circulated in the void. It was as if everyone could hear a roar from the ancient times that was filled with boundless ferocious qi and battle intent. After a while, the phenomenon slowly dissipated. Inside the inn, Chu Kuangren opened his eyes and sensed the endless ferocious qi that was surging within his body. He smiled in satisfaction. 60%. Now that my infallible tormented physique has reached 60% completion, even if I don't use any other techniques, this strength alone is enough to fight a sage. As expected of the top 10 Daoist physiques among the 3,000 physiques. Chu Kuangren murmured. Not counting his other trump cards, he now had 3 Daoist physiques, the golden jade body, the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, and the infallible tormented physique. It was a terrifying thing for a person to have 3 Daoist physiques, especially the last 2 which were supreme Daoist physiques. In addition, he had an incomplete 10,000 techniques returned to 1 Dao physique. With just these 3.5 Daoist physiques, he might not be invincible in the world, but among the younger generation in the firmament star, no one could match him. This won't do. I'm now the Black Heaven sect leader, and my status is much higher than those kids. Yet, I keep thinking about comparing myself to the younger generation. TSK, I still need to improve my mindset. Chu Kuangren smiled. No one in the younger generation could compare to him. His goal should be to become a saint. Let's start today's lottery draw. Congratulations. You have obtained the Starlight Skill Manual, Exorcist Palm. Extract. Although a starlight technique was not essential to Chu Kuangren, it was not a bad thing for him to learn more about it. After retrieving the technique, Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. Just like the Tathagata rebirth mantra, the giant palm of exorcism was also a Buddhist technique. Looks like I can no longer remove the label of a Buddhist cultivator. Chu Kuangren smiled and shook his head. Lan Yu, pack up. We're leaving. Chu Kuangren said to Lan Yu. He was almost done exploring the ancient battlefield, and he had obtained all the opportunities of fortune he wanted. The infallible tormented physique was probably the biggest opportunity of fortune in the ancient battlefield. All right. Lan Yu nodded. Both of them planned to leave. However, they bumped into Wu Yi at the entrance. Teacher. Wu Yi bowed to Chu Kuangren. Yes, Master Wu Yi. I'm afraid we can't exchange Buddhist techniques with you today. We'll be leaving now, Chu Kuangren said. Leaving? Where are you going, teacher? Just for a walk. Wu Ye's eyes lit up. Teacher, it's like this. The abbot sent me a message, asking me to invite you to the Thunder Sound Temple for a chat. If you don't mind, could you come with me to the temple? Master Hui Xian invited me. Hui Xian was the current abbot of the Thunder Temple. Chu Kuangren pondered for a while and said, sure. Since he had nothing better to do, he might as well visit the largest Buddhist sacred ground in the Azure Dragon domain. He heard that the vegetarian food at the Thunder Temple was pretty good. They left the ancient battlefield. Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu, and Wu Yi headed to the Thunder Temple. The Thunder Temple was quite a distance away from the ancient battlefield. To speed up, Chu Kuangren took out the elusive mirage. Wu Yi could not help but gulp when he saw the gigantic elusive mirage in front of him. Was the Black Heaven sect leader this grand? In less than a day, the few of them arrived at the Thunder Temple. A few novice monks were sweeping the fallen leaves in front of the mountain entrance. Suddenly, the sky turned dark. It's dark. Is it going to rain? One of the novice monks looked up at the sky. Then, he was shocked. Buddha above, what is this? High up in the sky, the gigantic black elusive mirage soared into the sky, blocking the sunlight with an unparalleled sense of oppression. Then, the elusive mirage turned into a dot of light and disappeared. 3 figures descended from the sky. Senior brother Wu Yi. The novice monk saw Wu Yi among the three and greeted him. At that moment, inside the Thunder Temple. In a temple hall, the current abbot of the Thunder Temple, Master Wuxia Xianxia, suddenly opened his eyes and smiled. "We have a guest." He got up, put on his robe, and walked out the door. Under Wu Ye's lead, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu entered the Thunder Temple and looked at the scenery around them with great interest. The ancient temple was located in the middle of the mountain. It was peaceful and tranquil. This is the back mountain of the Thunder Temple, where we usually cultivate. On the other side is the Mahavira Hall and many other temples. It's where worshippers visit. Wu Yi explained to Chu Kuangren. Other than worshippers, very few people came to the Thunder Temple, let alone the back mountain where cultivators gathered. Many monks looked at Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu curiously. Who are these two people? They're too good-looking. Could it be that they're bodhisattvas? Amitabha. The back mountain of the Buddhist sect is a place for cultivation. How can we let a lady in? I recognize her. She's the young emperor, Lan Yu. Young emperor? Then it's fine. The one beside her is the Black Heaven sect leader, Chu Kuangren. Why is he here? The monks whispered among themselves. Just then, an old monk in a golden robe walked out and bowed slightly at Chu Kuangren. The Black Heaven sect leader has come to visit personally. I apologize for not being able to welcome you at the door. You're welcome, Master. Wu Yi said that you invited me here. Is there anything I can help you with? Chu Kuangren smiled. We'll talk about this later. Brother Chu, you've come from afar, so I've already ordered someone to prepare a vegetarian meal. We can talk about it after we're done. That's fine too. I've heard that your temple's vegetarian meal is the best in the world. I'll have to try it later. Chu Kuangren smiled. The vegetarian food of the Thunder Sound Temple was indeed extraordinary. They used spiritual rice that contained spiritual energy, and the condiments were spiritual herbs. Although it looked like they were vegetarian, it was actually very nutritious. Furthermore, the flavor was excellent, and it left a fragrant aftertaste in the mouth and teeth. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu ate a few bowls of it. Brother Chu, I've invited you here mainly because I've heard of your exquisite Buddhist techniques. I'd like to exchange some pointers with you. Wuxia Xianxia said after they finished their vegetarian meal. Chapter 250. Cough cough. Chu Kuangren almost spat out the food he had just swallowed when he heard Wuxia Xianxia's words. What the hell? Another one wants to have a Buddhist exchange with me? The last time he tried to fool Wu Yi, he almost caused him to go berserk. In the end, Wu Yi benefited from his misfortune and his Buddhist cultivation greatly improved. However, who knew if he would be so lucky again this time? Although he had the lucky halo, he did not dare to mess around. No matter how lucky he was, he would not be able to stop himself from seeking death. Great Master, you're a famous monk of great virtue. When it comes to Buddhist knowledge, very few people can compare to you. How can I have the ability to communicate with you? You're too humble, brother Daoist. Wu Yi has already told me everything. I've yet to fully understand the exquisite Buddhist mantras that you taught me. In terms of Buddhist knowledge, I'm afraid I'm far inferior to you. Wuxia Xianxia smiled bitterly. He was truly ashamed of his own inferiority. As an abbot and a Buddhist monk of great virtue, he could not compare to a young man in terms of Buddhist cultivation even after so many years of meditation. Wuxia Xianxia felt a little ashamed at that thought. However, this was also an opportunity. Like Wu Yi, he had been trapped in a Buddhist Dharma realm for many years and needed someone to guide him through it. That person's Buddhist cultivation must be above him. However, in the Thunder Temple, even the few sages might not be able to match up to him in terms of Buddhist cultivation, let alone the others. Chu Kuangren's appearance gave him hope. When Wu Yi recited the Buddhist mantras that Chu Kuangren had taught him, Hui Xian felt that the bottleneck that had troubled him for so many years had begun to loosen. That was the reason he sought Chu Kuangren out. He hoped that Chu Kuangren could help him break through the bottleneck during their Buddhist exchange. Please enlighten me, Brother Chu. Hui Xian looked at Chu Kuangren with an earnest and sincere gaze. Chu Kuangren felt a headache coming on from Hui Xian's gaze. If he was really proficient in Buddhist techniques, it would not be a problem for him to exchange some pointers with Hui Xian. Unfortunately, he knew nothing about it. All he knew were some random sayings that he had read and heard in his past life. Who knew how useful they would be? It was fine for him to copy some ancient poems, but how could it be that easy to enlighten an honorable monk of great virtue? As long as Brother Chu is willing, I am willing to open the Thunder Temple's Sutra Depository to you. You can read any book you want. Just when Chu Kuangren was about to reject her, Hui Xian suddenly gritted her teeth and said as if she had made up her mind. Hearing this, the surrounding monks were in an uproar. One had to know that the Sutra Depository of the Thunder Temple contained many Buddhist scriptures and techniques from ancient times until now. They were extremely precious. He did not expect Hui Xian to be willing to make such a huge sacrifice just to exchange Buddhist techniques with Chu Kuangren. Upon hearing Hui Xian's words, Chu Kuangren swallowed the words of rejection that were at the tip of his tongue. His eyes lit up as he thought to himself. Scripture depository? He wasn't interested in those Buddhist scriptures, but those Buddhist techniques were of some use to him. After all, he still had an incomplete Dharma coalescence Daoist physique. This was a peerless supreme Daoist physique that was even more powerful than the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart and the infallible tormented physique. Once this body was completely formed, it would be extremely useful to him. In order to perfect this Daoist physique, Chu Kuangren had to learn a lot of cultivation techniques to strengthen his understanding of Taoism. Chu Kuangren knew too many cultivation techniques now. He had learned more than 8,000 techniques from the Dharma sect alone. Even so, he was still a little short of perfecting the Dharma physique. Now that Hui Xian was willing to open up the Sutra Depository for him to read as many Buddhist techniques as he wanted, it was a rare opportunity. I can exchange Buddhist techniques, but I'm not sure if I can help you, Master, Chu Kuangren said honestly. It's fine. Whether it succeeds or not, the Sutra Depository will be open to you. Master Hui Xian smiled. All right then, let's begin. Please follow me, Brother Chu. Hui Xian brought Chu Kuangren to a large hall. A Buddha statue was enshrined in the hall. In front of the Buddha statue, there were 2 prayer mats. Chu Kuangren and Hui Xian sat down and prepared to start their exchange. News about them had spread throughout the Thunder Temple. When they heard that the abbot wanted to exchange Buddhist techniques with Chu Kuangren, many monks came to watch. Even the Buddhist sage of the Thunder Temple was shocked. Deep within the Thunder Temple, inside a small Buddhist hall, a few old monks were sitting cross-legged in meditation. Suddenly, one of them opened his eyes and said with interest, Hui Xian wants to have a Buddhist exchange with Chu Kuangren. Interesting. I wonder how high this person's Buddhist attainment is. Let's all go and have a look. This person is indeed surprising. The golden Buddha on the ancient battlefield is enough to prove that his Buddhist techniques are extraordinary. Surges of spiritual thought spread out from the small Buddhist hall. At this moment, in the Buddhist hall, Chu Kuangren and Hui Xian sat on the prayer mats. Brother, please. Yes. Chu Kuangren nodded and said, What is Buddha? Buddha is the Buddha who does good deeds. That's not bad. Chu Kuangren said. May I ask, brother? What is Buddha? Hui Xian looked at Chu Kuangren and asked solemnly. I am the Buddha. Those words were like a sudden clap of thunder that exploded in the ears of the monks. The Thunder Temple sage was shocked too. How arrogant. He is the Buddha. What does he think the Buddha is? I thought this person would have some profound insight, but I didn't expect him to spout such shameless words. The Thunder Temple's monks and sages were shocked by Chu Kuangren's declaration of, "I am a Buddha." Then, a wave of anger rose within them. To them, Chu Kuangren's words were an insult to the Buddha. Such an act was infuriating. "Brother Chu, what do you mean by that?" Wuxia Xianxia said with a serious look. Obviously, he was also enraged by Chu Kuangren's words. "I am the Buddha. Or should I say, all beings are Buddhas. Buddhas are self-created, and they should not seek external help. My heart is Buddha, and my Buddha is the true Buddha." Those words made everyone fall into deep thought, especially the Thunder Temple sage. His mind buzzed as if Sanskrit chants were echoing in his mind. Wuxia Xianxia's body trembled, and the Buddhist light on his body surged uncontrollably as he fell into a state of enlightenment. What was the Buddha? The Buddha did not refer to a specific existence. The Buddha was just a concept. Cultivating Buddhism and Taoism was all about cultivating one's heart. Everyone had a Buddhist nature. As long as one was enlightened, everyone could say that they were the Buddha. All beings were Buddhas, and the Buddhist Dharma existed in all things. The Buddhist light on Wuxia Xianxia's body grew stronger. After a while, he slowly opened his eyes, got up, and bowed to Chu Kuangren. "Thank you for your guidance, Brother Chu." "You're welcome, Master. Shall we continue?" "Brother Chu, your Buddhist Dharma cultivation is impressive. Just this question alone has benefited me for the rest of my life. There's no need to continue," Wuxia Xianxia said calmly. Chu Kuangren was a little confused. Was it done just like that? Was it that simple? What about the scripture library? "Rest assured, Brother Chu. From today onwards, all the books in the scripture library will be open to you. You may read them on your own." "All right." Chu Kuangren nodded, very satisfied. He did not expect the exchange to be so simple. Sure enough, a master was indeed a master. Chu Kuangren did not even need to fool him. Chapter 251. The depth of this person's Buddhist Dharma is truly amazing. I'm not as good as him. If this person was born in Buddhism, he would be a Buddhist disciple. Inside the Thunder Temple, a few Buddhist sages were whispering to each other. They were obviously surprised by Chu Kuangren's Buddhist mantras. They had been studying Buddhist Dharma for many years, and they were confident that no one in this world could compare to them in terms of Buddhist Dharma. However, Chu Kuangren's few words had made them feel like they had been enlightened, as if the clouds had parted to reveal the sky. This level of Buddhist Dharma mastery far surpassed theirs. After exchanging some Buddhist Dharma with Master Wuxia Xianxia, the latter opened the scripture library for him to look around. Once Chu Kuangren entered, he immediately flipped through the Buddhist techniques without a word. As for the Buddhist scriptures, he did not even look at them. The young monk who brought him in could not help but frown when he saw that. One had to know that the Buddhist cultivation method was very special. If one did not have some understanding of the Buddhist scriptures, it would be very difficult to achieve anything. Chu Kuangren's behavior of directly reading the techniques without reading the Buddhist scriptures was a big taboo in the Thunder Temple. Brother Chu, the young monk was just about to remind him. Then, he saw a faint layer of Buddhist light emanating from Chu Kuangren's body. It gathered on his palm and emitted a metallic luster. "Is this the Thunder Temple's golden wisdom palm?" Hiss, the young monk sucked in a breath of cold air. He did not expect Chu Kuangren to master this cultivation technique in such a short time. What kind of cultivation speed was that? "Master, is there anything you want to say?" Chu Kuangren looked at the young monk curiously. The young monk swallowed his words of warning and said, "Nothing much. I just wanted to say that Brother Chu can read the scriptures in the scripture library. I'll take my leave first." "Take care, Master." The young monk bowed before turning around and leaving. He secretly shook his head. Chu Kuangren's Buddhist Dharma mastery was so profound that even the abbot and the others were ashamed of their inferiority. Why would he need to read the Buddhist scriptures? After the young monk left, Chu Kuangren began to read through the various Buddhist techniques in the scripture library. With the help of the meditational clarity attribute, he was able to learn these Buddhist techniques at an incredible speed. Golden Wisdom Palm, Formless Finger of Tribulation, Great Sunlight Demonic Saber. One by one, Chu Kuangren quickly digested the Buddhist techniques. A mysterious Daoist rhyme flowed around his body, and there was even a Buddha's light emanating from him. His entire person looked extremely holy. At the same time, his 10,000 techniques of coalescence Daoist physique was also rapidly absorbing the Daoist rhymes of these Buddhist techniques and was becoming more and more complete. Thunder Sound Temple, Dharma Institution. The Dharma Hall was the place where the martial monks of the Thunder Temple gathered. These martial monks were the most proficient in combat, and the Dharma Hall's first seat was the most terrifying existence below the sages in the Thunder Temple. In the main hall, an old monk dressed in grey clothes stood in front of everyone. No one dared to breathe loudly. This old monk was the current Dharma Institute's president, Master Sha Xian. Are you saying that our Thunder Temple's sutra depository was open to an outsider unconditionally by the abbot? Sha Xian said calmly. Yes, a monk at the side said indifferently. Humph, what is Hui Xian doing? The scripture depository is the foundation of our Thunder Temple. How can we let an outsider enter? Sha Xian snorted coldly. He had no respect for the abbot at all. One of the martial monks recounted what happened. Chu Kuangren? Buddhist Dharma? Chu Kuangren knows Buddhist Dharma? Even so, opening the scripture depository to an outsider is a ridiculous decision. Sha Xian then got up and walked out of the house. What are you going to do, first seat? I'm going to drag Chu Kuangren out of the scripture depository. Hearing that, the group of martial monks was in an uproar. You can't do that, first seat. Chu Kuangren is the Black Heaven sect leader and an honored guest of the Thunder Temple. Dragging him out of the scripture depository is unacceptable. The crowd immediately tried to stop him. Stand down. However, Sha Xian glared at them coldly and a terrifying murderous intent erupted from his body. The group of martial monks was shocked and did not dare to step forward. They could only watch as Sha Xian left and headed towards the scripture depository. Quick, go inform the abbot. One of the martial monks hurriedly said. By then, Sha Xian had already arrived at the scripture depository. His body was surging with a violent murderous intent, making him look like a god of death. In front of the scripture depository, Lan Yu frowned. She had been waiting for Chu Kuangren, but she did not expect Sha Xian to suddenly appear. Moreover, it seemed like he did not come with good intentions. It was her first time seeing a monk with such a murderous intent. Chu Kuangren is in there? Sha Xian said calmly, his voice as cold as a rock. That's right. Ask him to come out now. Master will come out when he wants to. Before that, no one can enter unless Master comes out. Lan Yu said indifferently. Her body was already covered with a layer of armor. She realized that the person in front of her was hostile towards Chu Kuangren. Just this point alone was enough for her to prepare for battle. Oh, so you're the legendary young Emperor Lan Yu, Chu Kuangren's follower. Looks like I'll have to go through you first to drag him out, Sha Xian said as a layer of Buddhist light surged from his body. The Buddhist light was bright and bright, but Sha Xian was filled with murderous intent. The combination of these two gave off a very contradictory feeling. However, it was undeniable that Sha Xian was very strong. At least, he had given Lan Yu a lot of pressure. She took out her scepter of light and was ready for battle. Just as the two of them were about to fight, a ray of Buddhist light suddenly shot up into the sky from the scripture library. It transformed into golden Buddhist lotuses in the void and a wave of compassionate Daoist rhyme emanated. Sha Xian was shocked when he saw it. This Daoist rhyme is the Thunder Temple's sage technique, Golden Lotus suppressing 1,000 demons. At that moment, another wave of Daoist rhyme emanated from the Buddhist light and transformed into a Buddhist figure holding a demon-vanquishing pestle. Besides that, another wave of Daoist rhyme circulated in the void and reverberated with waves of Sanskrit chants, causing everyone to subconsciously calm down. Even Xianxia's murderous intent subconsciously diminished in the face of this Sanskrit chants. Sage technique, Golden Warrior Avatar. Sage technique, Calming Mantra. Xianxia looked in the direction of the scripture library in shock. Countless Daoist rhymes manifested in the library. Besides the Thunder Temple's most famous sage techniques, there were also other Buddhist cultivation techniques. Xianxia was dumbfounded by the strange phenomena that filled the sky. How is this possible? What's going on? Xianxia stared at the scripture library in disbelief. This must be Brother Chu's doing. At that moment, the Thunder Temple's abbot, Wuxia's voice rang out from behind Xianxia. Xianxia turned around and said, "That's impossible. He just went in not too long ago. How can he release such a Daoist rhyme? Nothing is impossible." Wuxia shook his head. Everyone knows that Brother Chu spent half a day in the Dharma sect trying to understand 8,000 techniques. It's not surprising that he can understand the sage techniques in the scripture library. But isn't this a little too fast? Xianxia said in a complicated tone. Judging from the Daoist rhyme that Chu Kuangren released, Xianxia could not understand as much as him even if he spent half his life trying to understand it. Chapter 252. Buddhist light filled the air above the scripture library. All sorts of Buddhist cultivation techniques were displayed in the air, shocking everyone. Xianxia, the head of the Dharma Institute, looked at the various cultivation techniques and remembered his purpose of coming here. He suddenly felt a sense of disappointment. He came here to drag Chu Kuangren out. After all, the scripture library contained the knowledge that the Thunder Temple had accumulated over the years. However, he suddenly felt that there was no need for that now. Chu Kuangren had already learned all the sage techniques, so what was the point of him going in to drag him out? It was too late. He did not expect Chu Kuangren's level of enlightenment to be this terrifying. It had only been half a day since he entered the scripture library and he had already learned all the cultivation techniques. Was this guy even human? At that moment, the various transformations in the sky dissipated. A creak was heard. The scripture library's door opened and Chu Kuangren slowly walked out. Buddhist light circulated around his body and Daoist rhymes manifested. There was an indescribable holiness about him. Coupled with his otherworldly appearance and temperament, he looked like an immortal that attracted the attention of all the monks at the scene. Monks meditated every day, so their mental state was the best. When they saw Chu Kuangren, they still felt their Buddhist heart tremble. It was a feeling of longing for the most beautiful things in the world. It was a human's instinct to pursue beauty. My Buddhist heart is like steel, unshakable. Amitabha. When Xianxia saw Chu Kuangren, he quickly chanted the name of Buddha. However, his hostility towards Chu Kuangren had unknowingly decreased. Brother Chu's Daoist rhymes. Suddenly, Wuxia let out a soft gasp. He noticed that Chu Kuangren's Daoist rhymes were a little unusual. It was not only Buddhist Daoist rhymes but also other Daoist rhymes. Xianxia noticed it as well. After taking a closer look, he gasped in disbelief. Other than Buddhist Daoist rhymes, there were many other Daoist rhymes on Chu Kuangren's body. There were Sword Dao, Fist Dao, Five Ways Dao, Yin-Yang Dao. These countless Daoist rhymes circulated within his body, emanating a divine light. At that moment, Chu Kuangren was like a furnace that combined all these Daoist rhymes into an unparalleled peerless Daoist rhymes. This Daoist rhyme was formed from the fusion of countless Daoist rhymes. Yet, it was as if one could see the shadows of all Daoist rhymes in the world. This is the Dharma Coalescence Tao Physique. The Transcendent Coalescence Daoist Physique ranks third among the 3,000 Daoist physiques, the Supreme Daoist Physique. How many years has it not appeared? Rumor has it that once the 10,000 powers of Coalescence Daoist Physique is mastered, killing a sage will be a piece of cake. It is the most terrifying power in the world. Hui Xian and Sha Xian were both shocked. They knew that Chu Kuangren possessed the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, which was one of the top 10 supreme Daoist physiques among the 3,000 physiques. But now, there was another transcendent unification Taoist body that was even more terrifying than the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. It was hard to imagine how terrifying his combat strength would be. The Daoist rime on Chu Kuangren's body gradually converged and returned to normal. He slowly walked towards Hui Xian and Sha Xian and smiled. Borrowing the scripture library's books has been a great help to me. Thank you very much, Master. With the help of the meditational clarity attribute, Chu Kuangren quickly learned countless Buddhist techniques. Coupled with the foundation he had previously accumulated, Chu Kuangren finally managed to condense the Transcendent Coalescence Daoist Physique in one fell swoop after studying countless techniques. Although it was not mastered yet, as his cultivation level increased, the power of this Daoist physique would also increase correspondingly. It was the right decision to come to the Thunder Temple. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Brother Chu, I'm sure it must have taken a lot of effort to study the cultivation techniques. I've already asked the disciples to prepare a guest room for you. You can rest there anytime, Hui Xian said. Thank you, Master. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly and left with Lan Yu. After the two of them left, Hui Xian glanced at Sha Xian and smiled playfully. I heard that you're here to drag Brother Chu out of the scripture library. Why didn't you say anything just now? Sha Xian's face darkened. What do you want me to drag out? That guy has already learned all the techniques and you're still mocking me? What kind of an abbot are you? Sha Xian had a fiery temper and was straightforward with his words. He had grown up together with Hui Xian, so their relationship was not ordinary. Sha Xian was not as respectful to Hui Xian as the other monks and was much more casual with him. Hui Xian knew his old friend well, so he did not blame him. He said, Do you know what I learned from my Buddhist exchange with Brother Chu today? What did you learn? Sha Xian had heard from the other monks about Hui Xian's Buddhist exchange with Chu Kuangren. However, he did not know the details. To him, Chu Kuangren might be well versed in Buddhist techniques, but he was still an outsider. That was not a reason for him to enter the scripture library as he pleased. I'm about to ascend, and after this exchange with Brother Chu, I have at least a 70% chance of ascension. Hui Xian said shockingly. Upon hearing this, Sha Xian's expression changed. What did he say to you? How did he improve your dharmic skills to such an extent? One should know that the Thunder Temple's cultivation techniques were closely related to one's Buddhist cultivation base. The higher one's Buddhist cultivation base, the more powerful the cultivation technique would be. Initially, when Hui Xian was about to ascend, he only had a 50% chance of success. However, after exchanging Buddhist techniques with Chu Kuangren, he had a 70% chance of success. This 20% was not to be underestimated. There were countless cultivators in the world, but only a handful of them had a 70% chance of ascension. Sha Xian could not believe that Hui Xian had improved so much just by exchanging Buddhist techniques with Chu Kuangren. Hui Xian took out a small booklet and handed it to Sha Xian. Take a look for yourself. This is, Sha Xian took the booklet and flipped it open. The first sentence that entered his eyes was enough to shock him. All forms are fabricated. If you see that all forms are not, you will see the Tathagata. Just that sentence alone was enough to make Sha Xian gasp in amazement. There were more than 10 more sentences in the booklet. Did Chu Kuangren tell you all these? That's right. Hui Xian nodded. These were what Wuyi told me when Chu Quanren gave him pointers. Xianxia fell silent. Looking at the booklet in his hand, he felt that it weighed 1,000 tons. If these words were to spread, Chu Quanren would gain a supreme position in the Buddhist sect. No wonder you allowed him to enter and leave the scripture library freely. Xianxia smiled bitterly. Take this booklet back and study it well. You may be a Buddhist, but your murderous intent is too strong. I hope these words will be of help to you, Xianxia said. All right. Xianxia kept the booklet. After he returned to the Dharma yard, he spent the entire night reading the booklet. There were only about a dozen sentences and about 200 words in the booklet, which could be finished in a single glance. However, Xianxia spent the entire night reading the booklet carefully. But after an entire night, not only did he not gain anything, his eyes gradually revealed a perplexed look. I've killed so many people all these years, can I really achieve enlightenment? Lay down my blade and become a Buddha? But if I lay down my blade, who will protect the common people? The more Xianxia thought about it, the more confused he became. Chapter 253. Why? Is it really impossible for me to attain enlightenment? I've done so much for Buddhism and the common people. Is it all for naught? Lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha? No, I don't want to. In the Dharma yard, Xianxia's expression kept changing. His eyes revealed his struggle and the Buddha's light on his body flickered. In the next moment, a strong burst of spiritual energy exploded from his body and turned into a storm, shattering the entire house. The entire Dharma yard was shaken. Countless monks rushed out and looked in the direction of Xianxia. What's going on? This aura belongs to the chief. What's wrong with the chief? Is there an enemy attack? The monks turned pale with fright and rushed toward the source of the killing intent. All they saw was Xianxia wearing a cloth robe and holding a long saber in his hand. He stood in the ruins and the Buddha's light on his body flickered. Chief? One of the monks asked curiously. At this moment, Xianxia's body began to emit a murderous aura. An old monk sensed that something was wrong and his expression changed. He pulled the monk back and shouted, "Step back." The crowd began to step back. A terrifying saber aura exploded from Xianxia's body and sent the monks flying. Kill. I'm not wrong. Xianxia's eyes were bloodshot. Holding the long saber in his hand, a terrifying saber aura circled around his body and swept toward the monks. Oh no, the chief has gone berserk. What's going on? At this moment, a majestic Buddha's light appeared in the sky and a golden palm print came crashing down with the intention of suppressing Xianxia. However, Xianxia slashed at the sky and tore the palm print apart. Xianxia fell from the sky. He looked at Xianxia with a solemn expression. What's going on? Why did Xianxia suddenly go berserk? We don't know either. When we arrived, the chief was already in this state. The monks were also puzzled. Suddenly, Xianxia saw a small booklet on the ground and pulled it over. His expression changed when he read the contents. This was the booklet that he had given to Xianxia yesterday. Could this booklet be the reason why Xianxia suddenly went berserk? Xianxia could not help but blame himself at this thought. No, we must stop him. A vast Buddhist light surged from Xianxia's body. If Xianxia was allowed to continue like this, he would completely turn into a demon. By then, even God Daoist would not be able to save him. Calm Heart Mantra. Xianxia activated the Thunder Temple's Saint technique. A series of strange Sanskrit sounds reverberated in the air, bringing with it a mysterious Daoist rhyme that attempted to pacify the murderous intent. However, even this sage technique was useless against one's killing intent. His eyes were bloodshot as he gripped the long blade in his hand tightly. He stared at Xianxia before charging forward and slashing out with a terrifying blade. The saber chi surged and turned into a huge saber shadow that was 100 feet long. Hui Xian put his palms together, and two golden palms appeared out of thin air to clamp down on the saber shadows. Amitabha, Sha Xian, put down the butcher's knife. Hui Xian's shout was like a clap of thunder. However, the look in Sha Xian's eyes changed. There was a flash of confusion, struggle, and other emotions before his face turned into madness. Kill, kill. If I don't kill all of you devils, I won't put down my blade. He roared as he channeled his spiritual power. The power of his saber chi increased tremendously, and cracks began to appear on the two giant palms formed by Hui Xian's Buddhist light. If this goes on, Sha Xian will definitely fall into the demonic path. Hui Xian's expression was extremely solemn. At that moment, a golden palm attack came from beside him and landed on Sha Xian, sending him flying dozens of feet away. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu walked up to him. "Great Master, what's going on?" Chu Kuangren asked curiously. "Sha Xian has fallen into the demonic path," Hui Xian said. "Kill, kill." Sha Xian, who was sent flying by the palm attack, charged forward again. He gripped the long blade in his hand tightly as a terrifying murderous intent erupted from his body. His eyes were bloodshot as he charged towards Chu Kuangren and the others. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and slapped the void. A golden palm appeared out of thin air, wrapped in a majestic Buddhist light and a majestic Daoist rhyme, and it slapped towards Sha Xian. Giant palm of exorcism. To the monks, Sha Xian, who was extremely powerful, was once again sent flying by Chu Kuangren's simple move. This kind of power caused everyone present to be moved. It's another Buddhist technique that I've never seen before. Hui Xian could not help but exclaim. This made him even more certain that Chu Kuangren was a powerful Buddhist cultivator. Sha Xian, who was sent flying, spat out a mouthful of blood. His bones and tendons began to crack, and his Buddhist light dimmed. The murderous intent in his eyes was greatly weakened due to the sudden injury. Seeing that, Chu Kuangren's Daoist rhyme manifested, Buddhist light surged, and Sanskrit chants appeared in the void. It was the sage technique, calming mantra. Compared to Hui Xian, Chu Kuangren's calming mantra was much more exquisite. The murderous intent in Sha Xian's eyes dissipated, and his expression became peaceful again. Hui Xian could not help but sigh at that. He had been studying the calming mantra for so many years, yet he could not even compare to Sha Xian's half a day's worth of effort. Could he really be the reincarnation of a living Buddha? Hui Xian secretly guessed. However, now was not the time to discuss that. He quickly rushed to Sha Xian's side and helped him up. "Sha Xian, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Sha Xian smiled bitterly. "What exactly caused you to go berserk?" "I've been reading that booklet you gave me for the entire night. Those words were too profound, and I couldn't understand them. In the end, I realized that I've killed too many people over the years, and I'm afraid that I won't be able to attain enlightenment in this lifetime. When I thought of that, I couldn't accept it, and that's why I went berserk." At that, Sha Xian looked a little dejected. It was as if he had aged, and the domineering aura he had before was nowhere to be seen. "You're just too stubborn. Once you put down your blade, you can become a Buddha." Hui Xian quickly comforted him. Sha Xian's expression kept changing, and he sighed. "From tomorrow onwards, I'll resign from the Dharma Institute's first seat and go into closed-door meditation to gain enlightenment on Buddhist Dharma. Hopefully, I'll be able to dispel this evil aura within me." Although he said that, he still looked extremely dejected. He asked himself if he had done anything wrong. The people he had killed were people who deserved to be killed, so why did he have to suffer in the end? Could this be the Buddha's test? Idiot! At that moment, Chu Kuangren, who was beside him, shouted. Upon hearing that, everyone looked at him in confusion. "I've never seen a cultivator as stupid as you." Chu Kuangren looked at Xianxia and said indifferently. Xianxia's expression darkened. What do you mean, Brother Chu? You haven't resolved the knot in your heart, yet you want to dispel your evil aura and prove your Buddhist core. That's destroying your own future. If that's not stupid, then what is? But if I don't do that, how can I attain enlightenment? Those people you've killed, do they deserve to die? They deserve to die. Xianxia said coldly. If they deserve to die, then you're not at fault. Don't you think that you're at fault? Put down your blade, and you'll become a Buddha. You've put down the blade in your hand, but how can you put down the blade in your heart? Xianxia's eyes were once again filled with struggle and confusion. As his expression changed, a murderous intent surfaced again. Xianxia, who was beside him, was shocked. It can't be, right? Did Chu Kuangren's words really drive Xianxia into berserk again? Brother Chu, please teach me, what should I do? Xianxia asked Chu Kuangren with his last shred of rationality. Chu Kuangren replied indifferently, I'll leave you with a sentence. Kill to protect, but not to kill. Chapter 254. Kill to protect, slay karma instead of slaying people. Xianxia's expression changed as soon as he heard this. His mind buzzed as a sudden epiphany surged into his mind. Kill to protect, slay karma instead of slaying people, Xianxia muttered a few times. He felt a sense of relief as if a huge boulder had been lifted from his shoulders. He could not help but let out a hearty laugh. Huh, what a great, kill to protect, slay karma instead of slaying people. I've understood it now, I've understood it now. A powerful murderous intent erupted from his body, but it was extremely pure and without any evil intent. On the contrary, it resonated with the Buddhist light on his body, giving off a boundless and righteous feeling. Xianxia was overjoyed, feeling happy for Xianxia. You've finally proven your Buddhist core. Yes. Xianxia nodded slightly before he walked up to Chu Kuangren and knelt before him with a loud thud. Xianxia thanks Brother Chu for your guidance. The dignified Dharma Institute's chief, an honorable supreme, was kneeling before a junior. If word of this got out, many people would be shocked. At least the monk warriors at the scene were shocked. However, Chu Kuangren stood where he was and accepted the bow calmly. He said, You may rise. Xianxia stood up and said solemnly, Brother Chu, I, Xianxia, will never forget your kindness. If you ever need my help in the future, as long as it doesn't harm the innocent, I'll do my best. You're too kind, Master. Chu Kuangren smiled. Deep down, however, he was grumbling, Don't give me empty promises if you have the guts. Give me tens of millions of top-tier soul stones to spend instead. If there's something I can't do, what can you do? Although that was what Chu Kuangren was thinking, he did not show it on his face. He was the Black Heaven sect leader after all. It would be embarrassing for him to ask for money. For the next few days, Chu Kuangren was treated like a VIP in the Thunder Temple. Every monk was extremely respectful towards him. In the eyes of the monks, Chu Kuangren had almost become a living Buddha who was walking in the mortal realm after teaching Xianxia and Xianxia. Have you heard that Princess Linglong has been challenged? Tisk, who dares to challenge a young emperor? I heard that he's also a young emperor. Chu Kuangren had just finished his vegetarian meal when he heard a few monks conversing beside him. His heart skipped a beat and he was a little surprised. Princess Linglong was challenged? Chu Kuangren frowned slightly. In the past year, Chu Kuangren had kept in touch with Princess Linglong. Sometimes, Princess Linglong would also stay at the Black Heaven sect for a short stay. She even said that it was to deepen the relationship between the Royal Azure dynasty and the Black Heaven sect. He gradually developed a good impression of Princess Linglong. Although it might not be love, it was in the category of liking. Not to mention, the two of them had skin contact before. He was even her son-in-law. Now that he heard that she was being challenged, he couldn't help but worry. "Master, do you want to visit the royal Azure dynasty?" Lan Yu noticed Chu Kuangren's displeased expression. She knew Chu Kuangren very well and could guess what he was thinking, so she suggested. Let's go then. But before that, let's find out who's the one who challenged Linglong, Chu Kuangren said. It was not difficult to find out. Young emperors were the most outstanding sky prides in this world, and they were always the center of attention. Although not everyone knew about a young emperor challenging another young emperor, many forces were aware of it. He found Wu Yi and asked about it. The one who challenged Princess Linglong is Shang Han from the Scarlet Phoenix domain. The time and venue is tomorrow, in the Royal Azure Dynasty's palace. Wu Yi said. Shang Han, what a coincidence. A cold glint flashed across Chu Kuangren's eyes when he heard that name. Speaking of which, he had originally planned to visit the Scarlet Phoenix domain's Shang clan after leaving the Thunder Temple. First, he wanted to find the white-robed general's descendant. Since Shang Han had the Lu clan's ancient sword, he might be able to find some clues. Second, the other party had taken the Boundary Emperor weapon from the ancient Lu kingdom and released millions of tormented souls. It was time to put an end to this matter. Brother Chu, do you know this person? He's just a defeated opponent. Chu Kuangren chuckled. After learning what he needed to know, Chu Kuangren did not stay in the Thunder Temple any longer and headed to the Royal Azure Dynasty with Lan Yu. Royal Azure Dynasty. Inside Princess Linglong's bedroom. Princess, you are going to duel with Shang Han tonight. You must beat him to a pulp, Wang Xian said. A servant girl was helping Princess Linglong change her clothes. Princess Linglong smiled and said, Shang Han is a young emperor, and he obtained the primordial emperor's essence earlier than me. His time spent on it is longer than mine, so it won't be easy to defeat him. Ah, is that guy really that powerful? The servant girl was a little surprised. Of course, and it looks like he came prepared. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for me to win this battle. Princess Linglong sighed. It would be great if the fiancé was here. With him around, that Shang Han wouldn't dare to show off, the servant girl said. Of course. At the mention of the fiancé, Princess Linglong had a proud look on her face. If the fiancé was here, let alone Shang Han, even if all the young emperors of the world were to gather, what would he have to fear? She had great confidence in Chu Kuangren. This confidence was not blind, but it was based on her understanding of Chu Kuangren. If he knows that I'm being challenged, will he be worried about me? Will he come looking for me? Princess Linglong suddenly had a sense of anticipation. After dressing herself up, Princess Linglong walked out of her bedroom and arrived at the palace's drill ground. Her fiery red robe made her look beautiful and noble. As soon as she appeared, everyone felt like the night had brightened up a little. On the drill ground, the Royal Azure Dynasty King, Gu Chang'e, and the others were all there. There was another person standing in the drill ground. That person was dressed in a long black robe and held a long black halberd in his hand. His expression was cold. However, when he saw Princess Linglong in her red robe, he was moved. However, Princess Linglong did not even look at him. She first went to the Royal Azure Dynasty King and bowed. My son, you must be careful in this battle. The Royal Azure Dynasty King said solemnly. This was a matter between the younger generation, a challenge between young emperors. Even as the king, it was not appropriate for him to intervene. Yes, father. Princess Linglong nodded. Then, she walked to Shang Han and a curved blade appeared in her hand. The blade glowed coldly and was carved with the image of a bright moon. It was the full moon blade that she obtained when she explored the luminous moon's secret realm a few years ago. Actually, it was not entirely accurate to say that she obtained it. This blade was given to her by Chu Kuangren after they had sex. From then on, she carried this blade with her at all times, becoming her weapon. This was a holy artifact, worthy of her status. Make your move. Princess Linglong said calmly. I'll let you make the first move. Shang Han raised his halberd and said coldly. He looked at Princess Linglong with a mixture of hatred and possessiveness in his eyes. 4 years ago, you and Chu Quanren have brought me humiliation. Today, I shall return it to you first. Once I've defeated you, I'll look for Chu Quanren again to avenge my humiliation. Shang said coldly. Princess Linglong could not help but laugh. You think you're worthy of challenging the fiancé? You're like a mantis trying to stop a chariot and overestimating yourself. Are you so sure that I can't defeat Chu Quanren? The fiancé is as bright as the moon, and you're less than a firefly. Chapter 255. The prince consort is like the bright moon, but you are not even comparable to a firefly. Princess Linglong had nothing but praise for Chu Quanren. As for Shang Han, she did her best to belittle him. These were her heartfelt words, and at the same time, she was disrupting Shang Han's Dao heart and creating openings. True enough. After hearing Princess Linglong's words, Shang Han's face turned extremely gloomy. The Daoist rhymes on his body exploded instantly, turning into a strong gale that swept across the area. The tiles under his feet were lifted up and sent flying in all directions. At this moment, Princess Linglong made her move. While Shang Han's Dao heart was still shaken, she swung the bright moon blade in her hand, and a silvery white blade gleam that looked like moonlight rolled out. The saber light was like a hot knife through butter, containing a powerful Daoist rhyme. Shang Han scoffed. Without using any weapons, he raised his hand and gathered his Daoist rhymes. He clenched his fist and threw a punch at the void. The two forces collided and set off layers of airwaves in the void. Shang Han was actually sent flying back several meters, and there was a rather surprised expression on his face. I didn't expect you to have such strength. Shang Han did not care about Princess Linglong at all. In his opinion, Princess Linglong only became a young empress because she was lucky enough to obtain the primordial emperor's essence. Compared to him, she was a far cry. However, only after exchanging blows today did he realize that his opponent's strength was actually not inferior to his own. After forcing Shang Han back with a single move, Princess Linglong did not hold back at all. She waved the bright moon saber in her hand, and rays of saber light gushed out one after another. The silvery white saber light instantly lit up the entire night sky. Shang Han snorted. Looks like I've underestimated you. As he flipped his palms, a terrifying surge of Daoist rhyme mixed with spiritual power erupted instantly, sweeping out like a storm. Mountain-crushing godly palm. With a palm strike, two completely different Daoist rhymes collided in the void. Shockwaves exploded, and the imperial guards in the palace were all shocked. This was a power that they could not resist. Is this the power of a young emperor? So powerful. I'm afraid he's no weaker than an utmost being. I didn't expect Linglong to have such strength. Gu Chang'e said in surprise. For the past few years, Princess Linglong had been keeping a low profile and rarely fought in front of outsiders. No one expected her strength to be this strong. Even Gu Chang'e was a little inferior to him. It is indeed rare. The royal Azure dynasty ruler smiled in relief. A few years ago, Princess Linglong could not even decide on her own marriage. Now, she had grown to the point where she could take charge of her own affairs. Your strength has indeed exceeded my expectations, but unfortunately, you're destined to lose to me today. Shang Han let out a roar, and the Daoist aura and spiritual energy on his body burst forth. The palm strike turned into a formless storm, shattering all of the saber chi. Linglong was also knocked back dozens of feet by this power. She suddenly took out an item. It was a black skull. The black skull was thrown out, and it expanded in the wind, turning into a huge skull phantom. Its body was surging with a gray death aura, and it faintly revealed the Daoist rhyme of a sage. This is made from the bones of saints. Shang Han said in surprise. Not bad. Let me experience the might of this blacklight skeleton. Princess Linglong said plainly. She controlled the skull made of black light to tear at Shang Han, and wherever it went, a chilly wind swept through. She obtained this skull in the luminous moon's secret realm. It was made from the skull that she took with her after the death of the black light sage. The blacklight skeleton was surging with an unsettling death aura. Shang Han did not dare to fight it head-on, and could only avoid it for the time being. He came before the halberd and held it in his hand. At that moment, an unparalleled Daoist rhyme erupted from the halberd. Soaring waterfall technique. Shang Han shouted. An extremely domineering force erupted. A black light shot out from the halberd and landed on the black skull. In an instant, it pierced through the skull. The Daoist rhyme on the skull was broken, and it fell to the ground. Princess Linglong felt the backlash, and her face turned pale. She looked at the halberd in Shang Han's hand and said in disbelief, "What kind of weapon is this? How can it shatter a sage's skull so easily?" One should know that the body of a sage was indestructible, and it was difficult for cultivators below the sage level to break it. Even the black light sage's skull took Princess Linglong almost a year to refine into this black light skeleton. Princess Linglong, you should feel honored. Ever since the Heaven's Halberd was reborn, you're the first person to be defeated by it. Shang Han held the halberd in his hand, and his aura was unstoppable. The Heaven's Halberd erupted with a terrifying Daoist rhyme that merged with his body, increasing his strength by more than 10 times. Everyone at the scene was shocked. Even the royal Azure Dynasty king was filled with fear. What is this halberd? Even a sage ruler weapon can't increase a cultivator's combat strength to this level. This is a boundary emperor weapon. The royal Azure Dynasty king said in shock. A boundary emperor weapon was too rare. Even if one searched the entire royal Azure Dynasty, one would not be able to find a single boundary emperor weapon. No wonder you said that you'll defeat the fiancé. It's because you have this halberd. Princess Linglong finally understood. Even Chu Kuangren would be defeated by the Heaven's Halberd. Princess Linglong, just watch as I defeat him and trample him beneath my feet. Shang Han laughed out loud. With the boundary emperor weapon in hand, his confidence was at an all-time high. I've said it before, the fiancé is as bright as the moon, and you're not even comparable to a firefly. Do you think you can defeat the fiancé just because you have a weapon? I'll say it again, you're like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. You've overestimated yourself. Princess Linglong, angering me won't do you any good. Shang Han said with a gloomy expression. Heh, I'm just speaking the truth. You're courting death. Seeing how Princess Linglong was so protective of Chu Kuangren, Shang Han's jealousy towards Chu Kuangren reached its peak. His heart was filled with anger and he had to vent it out. Holding the Heaven's Halberd in his hand, he swung it towards Princess Linglong. A majestic Daoist rhyme erupted. Princess Linglong could not withstand the force and was sent flying for hundreds of meters. She spat out a mouthful of blood, her face turned pale, and her aura became extremely weak. Enough! The royal Azure Dynasty ruler roared. Let's end this battle here. We've lost. Upon hearing that, Shang Han stood still with his halberd in hand. He looked at Princess Linglong and said, since the princess hasn't admitted defeat, this battle isn't over yet. The royal Azure Dynasty ruler looked at Princess Linglong, only to hear her say firmly, I can lose, but I won't admit defeat to you. She had already regarded herself as Chu Kuangren's woman, so there was no way she would admit defeat to someone who insulted Chu Kuangren. My son, don't be impulsive. The royal Azure Dynasty ruler quickly tried to dissuade Princess Linglong. However, she remained stubborn. Very well, very well. Let's see how tough your bones can be. Shang Han was so angry that he laughed and was about to attack again. Be ****, if you dare touch her, I'll bury your entire clan. At that moment, an extremely cold voice suddenly resounded above the crowd. The crowd looked over and saw two people walking through the air towards them. One of them was dressed in a white robe with a beautiful ancient sword hanging from his waist. It was as if he was walking on moonlight. Chapter 256. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu arrived at the palace together. Princess Linglong, the royal Azure dynasty ruler, and the others were overjoyed. When Chu Kuangren arrived before the crowd and saw the injured Princess Linglong, a cold glint flashed across his eyes. He raised his hand and cast the spring breeze healing technique. A gust of gentle wind blew past Princess Linglong and quickly healed her injuries. Shang Han's eyes lit up when he saw Chu Kuangren. He was not afraid at all. Chu Kuangren, you've come at the right time. Today, before he could finish, an extremely dense Daoist rime erupted and turned into a godly mountain that smashed onto Shang Han's body. The terrifying energy sent Shang Han flying hundreds of meters away before he crashed onto the palace wall with a loud bang. Be ****, you seem to be having a good time. Chu Kuangren said coldly. Shang Han dashed out from the ruins. His hair was disheveled, he was covered in dust, and there were traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked extremely pathetic. Chu Kuangren. Today, I shall defeat you and avenge my humiliation. Shang Han was not discouraged despite being sent flying. On the contrary, the battle intent on his body burned. The terrifying Daoist rime resonated with the heaven's halberd in his hand, and his aura skyrocketed. Although he was only in the honorable realm, he was able to unleash a terrifying aura that was no weaker than a sage's. The surrounding void trembled violently. That was the power of a boundary emperor weapon. Chu Kuangren, have a taste of the heavens halberd's power. Sage technique, 9 heavens hurricane. Shang Han roared and waved the heavens halberd. Surges of Daoist rime flowed and intertwined in the void before it descended from the sky and turned into a black hurricane that swept towards Chu Kuangren. The black hurricane was like a natural disaster. Every gust of wind was enough to destroy a mountain. The hurricane that was formed from thousands of intertwined gusts of wind was so powerful that it almost tore the void apart, shocking everyone at the scene. What a terrifying power! Even an honorable supreme would find it hard to defend against this attack. This should be at the level of a sage. The crowd looked at the hurricane before them and gulped in shock. However, Chu Kuangren did not budge an inch. As the target of the black tornado, he had to bear the most terrifying pressure. However, all of this didn't affect him in the slightest, and it was as if the destructive storm before him was nothing more than a cool summer breeze. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Chu Kuangren made his move. He slowly raised his fair palm with distinct knuckles. However, that beautiful hand contained a terrifying force that could shake the heavens and the earth, and it slowly struck towards the wind. It was a gentle palm, but it seemed to have a terrifying power that the void could not bear. In an instant, it caused the void to rumble, and the terrifying airwaves spread like ripples when a stone was thrown into a lake. Break! A light shout rang out. A terrifying Daoist rime accompanied the surge of spiritual power, turning into a divine mountain that crashed onto the black tornado. In an instant, the storm that filled the sky was forcefully shattered. Countless black winds were unable to gather and dispersed in all directions. The terrifying power contained in the majestic divine mountain was like a hot knife cutting through butter. It moved forward with an indomitable will and locked onto Shang Han. In the face of this power, Shang Han, who was holding the heavens halberd in high spirits, suddenly revealed a look of terror. No, how can this be? How can his power be so strong? Shang Han roared inwardly as he channeled the spiritual power in his body, trying to block Chu Kuangren's attack. However, it was futile. No matter what he did, he could not stop the attack. The power of the human mountain blasted onto his body without reservation. Boom! With a loud bang, the heaven's halberd flew out of Shang Han's hand. His bones were broken, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Just as he was sent flying, a ray of light streaked across the sky and caught up to him. It was Chu Kuangren. He reached out his hand and grabbed Shang Han's neck, lifting him in midair. At that moment, Shang Han's bones and tendons were all broken, and he could not muster any strength at all. His whole body was like a rag. He looked at Chu Kuangren with extreme shock and disbelief. He could not even take a single attack from Chu Kuangren. The Boundary Emperor weapon that he had painstakingly obtained was useless. Let go of my young emperor. Shang Han's protector could no longer sit still. He walked out of the void, raised his arm, and launched a palm attack at Chu Kuangren. Scram! Chu Kuangren let out a soft roar. Like a sudden clap of thunder, a sound wave that contained a surge of Daoist rhyme erupted and spread out like ripples. The surging palm force continued to tremble before the sound wave. In less than a breath of time, the palm force was disintegrated by the sound wave, and the Dao Protector himself was sent flying. That's the Thunder Temple's heavenly thunder roar. The Protector looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. He could not figure out how Chu Kuangren could possess the Thunder Temple's technique. Chu Kuangren could not even be bothered to look at his protector after he forced him to retreat. His gaze landed on Shang Han and he said, "Do you really think you can do whatever you want just because you have the heaven's halberd? You're still not worth mentioning in front of me. As long as I want to, I can just move a finger and you'll be gone. Now, I'll ask, and you'll answer." Chu Kuangren lifted Shang Han and said, "Tell me, where did you get the Lu clan's ancient sword from?" "Chu Kuangren, I won't tell you." Shang Han said weakly. He did not know why Chu Kuangren wanted to know about the Lu clan's ancient sword, but as long as it was something Chu Kuangren wanted to know, he would not let him know. Chu Kuangren said, "It's fine if you don't want to tell me. I'll go to the Scarlet Phoenix domain later and ask the Shang clan about it. As for you, you can die here now." As he said that, a violent Daoist rhyme circulated between his fingers. The next moment, Shang Han would be dead. "Chu Kuangren, how dare you kill me? I'm the young emperor of the Shang clan. Aren't you afraid of starting a war between our orthodoxies?" Shang Han said in disbelief. "Do you know? Because of your million-strong tormented army, the Horizon Wing sect has lost more than 16,800 cultivators. The Horizon Wing sect is a subsidiary force of my Black Heaven sect. How do you think we should settle this score? How is it enough to kill a piece of trash like you? The Shang clan will pay the price too." With that, Chu Kuangren clenched his fingers, and a violent surge of energy gushed out from his fingertips. In an instant, Shang Han's body below his head was blasted into a mist of blood. At the same time, as Shang Han died, the primordial emperor's essence in his body came out. Chu Kuangren caught it and kept it in his yin and yang ring. Before he died, Shang Han's eyes widened. He still could not believe that Chu Kuangren would really kill him. Young emperor. Shang Han's protector was shocked and grief-stricken. He stared at Chu Kuangren. "Chu Kuangren, you've gone too far." Chu Kuangren glanced at him and tossed Shang Han's head at him. "I have something even more audacious in mind. Take this head back and tell the Shang clan leader and the sages that I'll personally pay them a visit in 3 days. Tell them to wait for my arrival." Upon hearing Chu Kuangren's words, Shang Han's protector shuddered violently. Not daring to delay, he quickly took Shang Han's head and left. Chapter 257. Fiancé, I knew you would come. After dealing with Shang Han, Princess Linglong walked up to Chu Kuangren and looked at her sweetheart with uncontrollable joy in her eyes. "Yes, are you all right?" Chu Kuangren asked. "Fiancé, your spring breeze healing technique is quite extraordinary." "I'm fine now." Princess Linglong smiled. "That's good. Then, Chu Kuangren looked at the heaven's halberd that was stuck in the ground not far away. He raised his hand, channeled his spiritual power, and pulled it towards him. The heaven's halberd had been refined by Shang Han, but since Shang Han was dead, the mark on it had disappeared. It was now an ownerless item again. Everyone looked at the Boundary Emperor weapon with fiery eyes. After all, it was a Boundary Emperor weapon with boundless power. Although Shang Han was a young emperor, his strength was not much stronger than an honorable. However, with the help of this Boundary Emperor weapon, his combat strength was comparable to a sage's. That alone showed how rare this Boundary Emperor weapon was. What if it was used by an honorable supreme or even a sage? Would their combat strength not skyrocket? However, now that the Boundary Emperor weapon was in Chu Kuangren's hands, they would not dare to snatch it even if they were given 10 guts. Inside the royal palace, the royal Azure Dynasty king had prepared a banquet to welcome Chu Kuangren. "Fiancé, are you really planning to go to the Shang clan?" the royal Azure Dynasty king asked. "Of course. I've already made my promise, so how can I go back on it?" Chu Kuangren chuckled. "No matter what, the Shang clan is still a sage orthodoxy. Won't it be too dangerous for you to go there so recklessly? The 16,000 lives of the Horizon Wing sect must not be in vain," Chu Kuangren said. The million-strong tormented army was released because of Shang Han, and the Horizon Wing sect suffered countless casualties. As the leader of the Horizon Wing sect, the Black Heaven sect had to demand an explanation from the Shang clan. Otherwise, who would be willing to follow the Black Heaven sect? "Fiancé, since you've made up your mind, I shall not stop you. However, I do have something to discuss with you. You and I are a family. Please speak, father." When Chu Kuangren addressed him as father, Princess Linglong was elated. The royal Azure Dynasty king was also beaming with joy. "It's like this. I'm about to undergo heavenly ascension, and I heard that the Black Heaven sect has a heavenly ascension artifact that can guide the energy of the heavenly tribulation. I wonder if I could borrow it?" the royal Azure Dynasty ruler asked. The weapon he was referring to was none other than the Thundersoother rod that Honorable Xianxia had used during his tribulation. "Of course, that won't be a problem. I'll send a message to Elder Rian later and have her send someone over the Thundersoother rod. Besides that, once the Shang clan's matter is settled, I'll refine a few medicinal pills for you to ensure that your ascension will go smoothly," Chu Kuangren said. "That's great." The royal Azure Dynasty ruler was overjoyed. He had long heard of Chu Kuangren's alchemy skills. If he could obtain the assistance of Chu Kuangren's medicinal pills, his chances of surviving the ascension would greatly increase. At that thought, the more he thought of Chu Kuangren, the more he liked him. Choosing to marry Chu Kuangren back then was the best decision he had ever made. Even the royal Azure Dynasty ruler did not expect Chu Kuangren to achieve so much in such a short period of time. After staying in the royal Azure Palace for a day, Chu Kuangren then headed to the Shang clan. Inside the Scarlet Phoenix domain, the Shang clan. When Shang Han's protector returned with Shang Han's head, the entire Shang clan was shocked and enraged. "This Chu Kuangren is too arrogant. How dare he kill a young emperor just for the lives of a few people from the Horizon Wing sect? This B***starred really is a lunatic. That's right. Does he know what kind of consequences this will bring? Is he trying to start a war between the orthodoxies? Humph, let's fight then. Does he really think we're afraid of him? Don't let your guard down." In the Great Hall, the upper echelons of the Shang clan were furious at Chu Kuangren for killing Shang Han, but there were also some who were worried. "Alright, let's quickly discuss our strategy." At that moment, a voice interrupted the crowd's discussion. A middle-aged man with a square face spoke. This person was the Shang clan leader, who was also Shang Han's father. He was the angriest when Shang Han was killed. However, as the clan leader, he knew very well that the current situation was too serious for him to lose his mind. The crowd gradually calmed down. Chu Kuangren's strength is not to be underestimated. 2 of the Murong clan sages were killed by him in the past, and now they've become an honorable orthodoxy. In my opinion, we shouldn't fight him head-on. One of the elders said. He was one of the more clear-headed people there. He knew that Chu Kuangren was not to be trifled with. If they were to fight him head-on, both sides would suffer. If we can't fight him head-on, are we supposed to give in to him? Chu Kuangren has killed a young emperor, and if we give in to him, wouldn't we be humiliated? Besides, even if we give in, how can you guarantee that Chu Kuangren will let it go? Another elder objected. That's right. Everyone knows how the Murong clan sages died. Just because of one disciple, Chu Kuangren dared to attack the Murong clan and kill 2 of their sages. He's a lunatic. If we don't prepare, we'll end up the same way. That's not necessarily the case. Murong Xian is Chu Kuangren's junior brother, so it's understandable that he would do such a thing for his junior brother. Besides, the Horizon Wing sect is just an affiliated force. Even if some of their disciples died, I don't think they'll go all out against us. That makes sense. The crowd discussed among themselves and came up with various countermeasures. In the end, they decided to wait and see what Chu Kuangren would do first. They would deal with him later, but they had to be prepared to fight at any time. In an instant, the entire Shang clan was in action. Even the sage behind the Shang clan was on high alert. On this day, a majestic elusive mirage arrived above the Shang clan. The Shang clan leader and the elders all rushed out. What a gigantic fairy boat! I can't believe the Black Heaven sect has such a treasure. The gigantic elusive mirage hovered above the Shang clan. All the cultivators in the Shang clan's territory were shocked when they saw it. Those who knew the inside story were even more serious. They knew. There was a person on that elusive mirage. A person who could turn the Shang clan upside down. He's finally here. I wonder if the Shang clan can survive this ordeal. Chu Kuangren, I'd like to see how arrogant he can be. Deep within the Shang clan. On a mountain peak, an old man who was sitting cross-legged suddenly opened his eyes and stared at the elusive mirage with a cold look in his eyes. Chu Kuangren, I hope you don't cross the line. Otherwise, the Shang clan will be your burial ground. That old man was the Shang clan's only sage. Although there was only one sage, most of the sage orthodoxies dared not underestimate the Shang clan. That was because this sage was very powerful, much more powerful than the sages behind most sage orthodoxies. The Shang clan sage was already prepared for Chu Kuangren's visit this time. Even if a conflict were to break out between them, he was confident that he could defeat Chu Kuangren here. Chu Kuangren left Lan Yu in the elusive mirage while he entered the Shang clan's territory alone. The disciples looked at him, shocked by his appearance and aura. At the same time, they were also fearful and prepared for battle. Chapter 258. Chu Kuangren's visit to the Shang clan was known by many. Even some of the sages were paying close attention to the development of this matter. When Chu Kuangren arrived at the Shang clan, the sages' spiritual thoughts followed closely behind. Most of them were sages of the Vermilion Bird region. Their spiritual senses were communicating with each other. After the Murong clan incident, Chu Kuangren is going to wreak havoc in the Shang clan again. I wonder if the Shang clan will be able to survive this time. Who knows? Isn't this Chu Kuangren a little too presumptuous? I, on the other hand, hope that the Shang clan sage can teach him a lesson. Although he is impudent, he has a good reason to do so. So many people from the Horizon Wing sect have died. As the sect leader, it is reasonable for him to come to collect the debt. What can we say? Many people knew about what happened in the ancient battlefield. As long as one had the intention, one could easily find out who was the one who released the million-strong tormented army. Although some sages had the same attitude as the Shang clan, they felt that the deaths of those from the Horizon Wing sect were just a small matter. However, Chu Kuangren just had to fight the Shang clan to the end over such a small matter, so what else could they do? The Shang clan was in the wrong first, and Chu Kuangren had a good reason to do so. Even some of the sages who wanted to find fault with Chu Kuangren had no excuse to do so. Within the Shang clan, Chu Kuangren walked past the countless Shang clan disciples who were holding their weapons at him. Slowly, he arrived before the Shang clan leader and said, Chu Kuangren, am here to pay a visit. As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely violent sword-based Daoist rhyme swept out. This Daoist rhyme was so powerful that the surrounding Shang clan disciples didn't even have time to react before they were pressed to the ground, unable to move. I'm sorry, but I don't really like it when someone points a weapon at me, Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The Shang clan leader's expression changed. Chu Kuangren, what are you trying to achieve by coming to the Shang clan this time? I'll get straight to the point. Shang Han's release of his million-strong tormented army has caused great damage to my Black Heaven sect subsidiary force, the Horizon Wing sect. I feel that I must settle this score with you guys no matter what. Chu Kuangren's tone was as cold as ice. Then, he looked at clan leader Shang Han. You're Shang Han's father, right? It's the father's fault for not teaching his son properly. You, commit suicide as an apology. The crowd burst into an uproar when they heard this. Kill myself to atone for my sins? Chu Kuangren wanted the leader of a clan to commit suicide as an apology? Chu Kuangren, don't be too presumptuous. The Horizon Wing sect is just an honorable orthodoxy, and they've only lost a few people. You're not going to stop after killing our young emperor, and you even want our clan leader to commit suicide to atone for his sins. Don't you think you're being too overbearing? An elder walked out and shouted angrily. Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren glanced at him and lifted his hand to activate the gluttonous devouring technique, sucking his opponent towards him and strangling him. Everyone's expressions changed at that. Surges of Daoist rhymes erupted and locked onto Chu Kuangren, ready to strike at any moment. Just a few people? More than 16,800 lives are just a few people in your eyes? Shang clan, how arrogant. Chu Kuangren clenched his fist, and a terrifying Daoist rhyme instantly crushed the elder's flesh and bones, ending his life force. Then, he absorbed the elder's body into the avarice dimension and refined it. Arrogant. How dare you kill someone in front of us? Do you really want to start a war? One by one, the elders glared angrily at Chu Kuangren. However, Chu Kuangren just stood there fearlessly. Why don't all of you take a step forward after saying so much? Chu Kuangren swept his gaze across the crowd. Although these elders were all questioning him aggressively, not a single one of them dared to step forward, let alone attack him. His words made the Shang clan elders' faces turn red, but still, not a single one of them dared to step forward. They were just too afraid of Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, if I kill myself as an apology, this matter will end here, the Shang clan leader said in a deep voice. Besides that, the Horizon Wing sect has built a tomb near Sun's Oil City to bury those who died fighting against the million-strong tormented army. I want the Shang clan sage to personally go there and guard the tomb for 100 years. As soon as he said that, an incredibly terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the depths of the Shang clan. A white-haired elder slowly walked out with a powerful sage's Daoist rhyme flowing around his body. This person was the Shang clan sage. Are you saying that you want me to guard the tomb for those ants for 100 years? The Shang clan sage said coldly. Chu Kuangren glanced at him. Watch your words. Those are the Horizon Wing sect's martyrs, not ants. It's all the same. The Shang clan sage yelled, and his terrifying sage's Daoist rhyme spread out like a tidal wave. In my eyes, they're no different from ants, and you want me to guard the tomb for 100 years? Chu Kuangren. How dare you? You're humiliating me. The Shang clan sage was furious. He was a sage. He was above billions of living beings, and he was born with pride. Yet now, Chu Kuangren wanted him to guard the tomb for a bunch of ants? If that was not humiliating him, what else could it be? The sages who were secretly observing the situation were also speechless. They did not expect Chu Kuangren to make such a request. It was too much for a sage to accept. I only have these two conditions. 1. Shang Han's father must kill himself as an apology. 2. The sage must guard the tomb for the martyrs for 100 years. Impossible. The Shang clan's sage roared. Chu Kuangren was silent for a while. After a long while, he sighed and said, "Firstly, I don't want money, and secondly, I don't want you to give up your land. I'm just trying to seek justice for the dead, and I don't want to implicate the innocent. I thought you guys would agree, but now, I've been too naive. A debt of blood must be repaid with blood. Then don't blame me for starting a massacre here today." As soon as he said that, the sword-based Daoist rhyme on his body surged out in an even more violent and domineering manner. It swept across the entire Shang clan, and it was mixed with his bone-chilling killing intent. Everyone in the Shang clan felt their scalps go numb. A huge battle erupted in an instant. The Shang clan sage knew that Chu Kuangren was not easy to deal with, so he made the first move. With a punch, a violent sage's Daoist rhyme erupted. Chu Kuangren blocked it with his sword. When the two energies collided, the shockwave that erupted sent the weaker Shang clan disciples flying. All disciples below the battle monarch realm, retreat from the battlefield. The Shang clan leader shouted. He had investigated Chu Kuangren's abilities and knew that Chu Kuangren had the gluttonous devouring technique. A group battle would be useless against Chu Kuangren, and the ordinary disciples would only suffer unnecessary casualties. They might even become food for Chu Kuangren to replenish his spiritual power. Activate the Shang clan's grand formation. The Shang clan leader shouted again. On the ground, lines of mysterious runes began to circulate. A powerful force that was similar to the battle monarch domain but many times stronger suddenly pressed down on Chu Kuangren's body. Oh, is it similar to a gravitational force? Even so, what can you do to me? The 6 supreme foundation levels within Chu Kuangren's body shone brightly at the same time. Surging spiritual power circulated within his body to counteract the formation suppression. Chapter 259. Surging spiritual power surged in his body, counteracting the suppression of the formation. On the other hand, the Shang clan sage seized the opportunity to attack Chu Kuangren. Terrifying Daoist rhymes circulated around him, and every punch he threw out felt like the world was collapsing. Upon seeing that, Chu Kuangren unsheathed his sword and was about to strike. However, at that moment, a terrifying suction force suddenly emerged from the ground. This suction force was not directed at anyone but the sword in Chu Kuangren's hand. It was as if the entire ground had turned into a magnet. Because Chu Kuangren was affected by the suction force, his sword attack speed was a little slower. He could only block with his sword in front of his chest and take on the Shang clan sage's attack head-on. The huge recoil force blasted Chu Kuangren hundreds of feet away. "There's something underground that's affecting my sword." Chu Kuangren frowned as he looked at the ground. Apart from that, he noticed that the Shang clan saint and the others did not have any weapons in their hands. In other words, the thing underground was not only targeting swords, but also other metal weapons? Looks like it really is a magnet. Only the legendary prime magnet can have this kind of magnetic force. Chu Kuangren laughed. The Shang clan leader chuckled. "That's right, Chu Kuangren. We've already investigated your battle techniques. You're indeed very powerful, but most of them are based on sword Dao. Whether it's your heaven-slaying sword drawing technique or your sword formation, these are your main techniques against sages. As long as your sword is restricted, your combat power will be reduced by at least half. Before you came, I had people bury nearly 500 kilograms of yuan magnet underground. Now, your Kuan-Wu sword and the sword formation can no longer be used. Coupled with the influence of my clan's great formation, you will die today. The leader of the Shang clan and the others looked very confident. The sages who were secretly observing were also quite surprised. They did not expect the Shang clan to prepare so much in just 3 days. This time, Chu Kuangren is really in danger. That's right. If he can't use his sword Dao, Chu Kuangren's combat strength will be reduced by at least half. How can he possibly deal with the Shang clan sage then? That's right. Furthermore, the Shang clan sage is a 6-step sage. He's much stronger than most of the other sages. Is Chu Kuangren really going to fall here today? Everyone suddenly felt that it was a little unbelievable. All these years, Chu Kuangren had brought too many surprises to them. Vaguely, he gave off a feeling that he was invincible. He was not invincible among the younger generation. He was invincible in the world. Although it was an exaggeration, Chu Kuangren had indeed displayed such momentum over the past few years, giving off a feeling that he was undefeatable. Even the saints had to admit that the other party was powerful. But now, he was actually going to lose? What a pity. If he doesn't fall, the next 10,000 years will be his era. A sage could not help but sigh. It's good that he's dead. With him around, the geniuses of our various orthodoxies won't be able to stand out. There were also saints who were happy to see such an outcome. Don't jump to conclusions just yet. Chu Kuangren hasn't reached the end of his rope yet. A saint said calmly. As soon as he said that, everyone looked at the battlefield. To the crowd, Chu Kuangren, who was supposed to be in a desperate situation, was not panicking at all. Instead, he looked calm and did not seem worried about his situation at all. You guys seem to know me quite well, and you even have a set of methods to deal with me. Unfortunately, what you know is only the previous me. What you've prepared is far from enough. Chu Kuangren then kept the descendant self-sword back into his spiritual mound before a terrifying ferocious Qi and Daoist rhyme erupted from his body. Infallible tormented body. Activate. The peerlessly terrifying ferocious Qi swept out like a tidal wave. Cultivators with a slightly stronger cultivation base and Daoist core were all shocked by this surge of power. This ferocious Qi is so terrifying. What kind of technique is this? Wait a minute, this is the aura of a Daoist physique. Ferocious Qi, Daoist physique. Could this be the legendary supreme Daoist physique, the infallible tormented physique? The Shang clan leader's pupils dilated as his eyes were filled with shock. The infallible tormented physique was one of the top 10 terrifying Daoist physiques among the 3,000 physiques. It was not any weaker than the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. Chu Kuangren had such a Daoist physique. This was not mentioned in the report. Not to mention the Shang clan, even the spectating sages were shocked by Chu Kuangren's Daoist physique. Doesn't he have the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart? Why does he have the infallible tormented physique all of a sudden? What the hell is going on? D****, can anyone tell me what's going on? The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart and the infallible tormented physique are the 6th and 7th supreme Daoist physiques among the 3,000 physiques. Isn't it a little too terrifying for him to possess both of them? There were only 30 supreme Daoist physiques among the 3,000 physiques. As long as one did not die in the future, becoming a sage was almost guaranteed. Even if one was born in this great Dharma emergence era, one might even have the chance to ascend to the emperor realm and become a mighty emperor. It was already a great fortune for an ordinary cultivator to possess even one such physique. Any orthodoxy would view that person as a god's prideful son and provide them with countless resources. However, Chu Kuangren had 2 of them. 2 supreme Daoist physiques on the same person. D****. The Shang clan sage did not expect Chu Kuangren to have such a technique up his sleeves. However, there was no turning back now. Kill. With a loud roar, the Shang clan's sage charged forward. When Chu Kuangren saw that, he too channeled his spiritual power and gathered ferocious qi on his fist. The majestic Daoist rhymes and ferocious qi converged to form a black fist mark that erupted with a terrifying destructive aura. When the sage's Daoist rhymes collided with the Daoist physique's power, the void exploded with a boom, and violent shockwaves spread out like a tidal wave. The Shang clan's battle monarchs and honorables were all forced to retreat. In the arena, only Chu Kuangren and the Shang clan sage were left fighting. That Shang clan sage looked old, but each of his punches and kicks contained a powerful force that could shake mountains and rivers. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren's infallible tormented physique was extremely terrifying as well. Although it was only 40% away from the full mastery stage, the force that it unleashed was not any weaker than the Shang clan sage, a sixth-step sage. The battle between the two made the spectators' hearts palpitate. 9 Heavenly Hurricane. The Shang clan sage activated his sage technique. Compared to Shang Han, the Shang clan sage technique was like heaven and earth. The violent storm swept towards Chu Kuangren, and the force contained within it was enough to kill most sages below 6th step. Divine Ferocious Avatar. Chu Kuangren let out a soft roar and activated the infallible tormented physique's exclusive divine ability. Terrifying ferocious qi gathered around his body and formed into a gigantic black humanoid figure that exuded an undefeatable battle intent. When the humanoid figure unleashed a punch, the air was compressed and a terrifying explosion erupted. The collision between the two peerless forces caused the entire Shang clan's territory to tremble violently. The ground was torn apart, and countless buildings were destroyed. One by one, the Shang clan's people were sucked into the energy turbulence and were instantly pulverized into nothingness. Even a sage's spiritual thought could not see the battle clearly due to the chaotic energy. This battle is probably one of the most powerful battles below the Great Sage level. I can't believe Chu Kuangren has such combat strength. Infallible tormented physique, exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. What a monster! Chapter 260. The infallible tormented body was fighting against a 6th-step sage. As the battle progressed, Chu Kuangren's mastery of the infallible tormented physique grew more and more proficient, and the divine ferocious avatar behind him became more and more solid. Fist after fist, baleful qi surged, and it was boundlessly terrifying. Even a 6th-step sage like the Shang clan sage felt waves of pressure. The sage's Dao runes were only barely able to block it. After a fierce battle, both Chu Kuangren and the Shang clan sage were forced back a few hundred meters. They looked at each other and saw the murderous intent in each other's eyes. Chu Kuangren, it's time to end this battle. The Shang clan saint took something out from his chest. It was a beautiful red flower that was surrounded by mysterious Dao runes. The sages in the dark were shocked when they saw this red flower. This is a blood concealment flower. The holy medicine, the blood concealment flower. Rumor has it that this item can stimulate a cultivator's potential and allow them to unleash a combat ability that is far beyond their usual level. Indeed, I did not expect the Shang clan saint to have such an item. The Shang clan saint activated his spiritual power, and the blood-concealing flower in his hand instantly shattered, turning into dazzling red dots that were absorbed by him. At the same time, his aura continued to rise. 7th-step saint. He actually rose from the 6th-step saint realm to the 7th-step saint realm. Although he was only 1 step away, his combat strength had increased to a whole new level. At this moment, the Shang clan saint's combat strength was so strong that just the aura he released was enough to distort the surrounding void. Yeah, it's time to end this. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Boundless divine light suddenly bloomed from his body, and streams of Wei rhymes circulated on his body. Fist path, sword path, saber path, nature path, 5 elements path, thunder path, Buddha path. Surrounded by countless Daoist rhymes, it was as if Chu Kuangren had transformed into a Daoist ancestor, shocking everyone. so many Dao rhymes. How did he do it? Heavens, this power. Could it be the 10,000 techniques coalescence Daoist physique? No way, it can't be true, right? The Supreme Dao physique is second only to the Chaos physique and the Heavenly Golden Imperial physique, the all techniques return to one Dao physique. God, how could he have it? Even though the sages were experienced and knowledgeable, they were still dumbfounded. Having a supreme Daoist physique in one's body was already considered a great fortune. Chu Kuangren's exquisite 9 orifices sword heart and infallible tormented physique had already been determined by the sages to be unprecedented. But now, his opponent had unleashed the 10,000 techniques coalescence Dao physique. There were a total of 3 supreme Daoist bodies. Did they still want to live? On top of that, he had condensed 6 supreme foundations. This was something that even a supreme Daoist physique might not be able to achieve. The sages did not dare to imagine how the other party had managed to do it. The Shang clan saint was also shocked, but this made him even more determined to kill. He roared and activated his strongest attack. 9 Heaven's Great Hurricane. With a furious roar, the Shang clan saint who had used the blood-concealing flower unleashed an unparalleled Daoist rhyme. Endless gales gushed out from the sky, and the black storm almost covered the sun. This strike actually formed a terrifying scene that resembled the end of the world. A terrifying pressure swept out in all directions. Chu Kuangren was shrouded in darkness and locked onto by the endless black storm. However, the Daoist rhyme light on his body was unusually dazzling. Transcendental might. With a low roar, the countless Daoist rhymes within Chu Kuangren's body condensed into a supreme mighty force that instantly erupted. Chu Kuangren then clasped his middle fingers together and pointed his sword towards the sky. This mighty force, combined with a majestic ferocious chi, gushed out from his fingertips and turned into a radiant sword shadow that was composed of 3 colors, black, gold, and purple. The transcendental might, the innate ferocious chi, and the sword chi cultivated by the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. How terrifying was the combined power of these 3 supreme Daoist physiques. It was a force that could terrify even a sage. Slash! With a soft roar, Chu Kuangren commanded his sword to slash down. With an unstoppable force, the peerless sword shadow instantly tore through the black storm and landed on the Shang clan saint's body. Even a sage's body was as fragile as a piece of paper under this force, and it was easily torn in half. A large amount of sage's blood gushed out and splattered onto the ground. A loud thud was heard. The sage's body that was sliced in half fell to the ground. Chu Kuangren stood in the void, his white robes fluttering even though there was no wind. His ink-black hair and the lingering murderous chi still lingered on his body. At that moment, he looked like an immortal. More like a mad immortal. The sages who were secretly observing were speechless. The strength that Chu Kuangren had displayed was too terrifying. Not only that, but his invincible aura was even more obvious now. 10,000 years from now, the era of this person shall be his. I wonder if it's a good thing or a bad thing that such a monster has appeared in the era of great battles. Chu Kuangren, this person's techniques are too extraordinary. He alone can take on several sage orthodoxies. Sages are high and mighty, but this person has killed 3 of them in just 1 year. How terrifying. The sage's spiritual thoughts retreated like the tide. The shock that Chu Kuangren brought to them today was too great. They had to go back and recuperate. With the Shang clan sage killed, all the Shang clan disciples were extremely shocked. They looked at Chu Kuangren in the sky with despair in their eyes. The Shang clan's biggest backer had been killed. What else could they use to fight him? At that thought, they were filled with despair and fear. As for the dead young Emperor Shang Han, they no longer had any respect for him as they cursed in their hearts. It was all Shang Han's fault for attracting such a terrifying enemy to them. Chu Kuangren, how dare you kill my clan sage? Aren't you being too overbearing? The Shang clan leader roared. Firstly, I have the strength. Secondly, I have a good reason to do this. Thirdly, I've given you guys a chance. Chu Kuangren said calmly as he slowly landed on the ground. He then raised his hand and sucked the Shang clan sage's body into the avarice dimension to refine it. The spiritual power that he had expended during the battle with the sages was rapidly recovering. Now, are you going to kill yourself to atone for your sins, or do you want me to do it myself? Chu Kuangren looked at the Shang clan leader and said. You, the Shang clan leader was so enraged that his entire body was trembling. He unleashed a palm attack at Chu Kuangren before he turned around and fled into the distance. Chu Kuangren easily shattered his opponent's attack and shook his head as he watched his opponent's fleeing figure. Foolish. He could even kill the Shang clan sage, and the Shang clan leader's cultivation level was only at the honorable supreme realm. To others, he might be extremely powerful, but to Chu Kuangren, there was no way he could escape. However, before he could make a move, a few Shang clan elders looked at each other and dashed out to stop the Shang clan leader. Clan leader, you can't leave. What are we going to do if you leave? For the Shang clan, please sacrifice yourself. The few Shang clan elders stopped the Shang clan leader and said. You're rebelling. You're a bunch of traitors. Seeing that, the Shang clan leader was so angry that his face turned green. At the same time, a strong sense of sorrow welled up in his heart. He did not expect that before he could die in Chu Kuangren's hands, he would be forced into a desperate situation by his clan. Chapter 261. The clan's elites then joined forces to attack the Shang clan leader. Although the Shang clan leader was an honorable supreme, he was beginning to show signs of fatigue under the combined attacks of the clan members. In addition to being surrounded by his clan members, he was disheartened and careless. As a result, he was hit and fell to the ground. What a good show! Chu Kuangren could not help but applaud as he watched from the side. The elders looked a little embarrassed. However, that was the only thing they could do to save their own lives. An elder escorted the Shang clan leader forward. Brother Chu, the Shang clan has offended you, so they deserve to die. He's Shang Han's father, so if you want to kill him, do as you please. Chu Kuangren did not even look at that elder. Instead, he took out the Lu clan's ancient sword from his yin and yang ring and said, Let me ask you, where did Shang Han get this Lu clan's ancient sword from? It seems that the origin of this Lu clan's ancient sword is very important to you, but I'll never tell you a word about it. The Shang clan leader sneered. He knew that he would die today. If that was the case, why would he say anything that would benefit Chu Kuangren? This sword looks familiar. At that moment, one of the elders suddenly let out a soft gasp. The Shang clan leader was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Tell me, why does this ancient sword look familiar? Where have you seen it before? Chu Kuangren smiled and looked at that elder. F***ck, why do you think this ancient sword looks familiar? Where have you seen it before? That elder thought for a while. A few years ago, I went to the Nimba city. There's a branch of the Shang clan there, and I saw this ancient sword there. However, I didn't pay much attention to it. Although the Lu clan's ancient sword was made of special materials, it had no other uses other than opening the enchanted boundary of the Lu city. To those who did not know about the Lu kingdom's treasures, the Lu clan's ancient sword was not even comparable to an ordinary honorable weapon. Therefore, that elder did not pay much attention to it at that time. He did not expect to see this ancient sword again in such an occasion a few years later. It was truly a surprise to him. I remember now. The young emperor, oh no, Shang Han went to the Nimba city some time ago too, one of the Shang clan disciples suddenly said. The Nimba city, the Shang clan's branch, Chu Kuangren seemed to be deep in thought. It seemed like Shang Han had obtained the Lu family's ancient sword from the Shang clan's side branch. Would the Shang clan side branch have a descendant of the white-robed general? Looks like I have to make a trip to Cloud City. Chu Kuangren muttered. Fellow Daoist Chu, if you don't mind, I can lead the way for you, the elder at the side suddenly said in a flattering manner. Chu Kuangren gave it some thought. After all, they were from the Shang clan side branch. Bringing along a Shang clan elder might make things easier for them, so he agreed to it. By the way, fellow Chu, what about him? The Shang clan elder pointed at the Shang clan leader and said. Kill him. Chu Kuangren said calmly. There was no need for him to do it himself, someone else would do it for him. Not long after, the dignified Shang clan leader, a supreme sovereign, died in the hands of his own clansmen. A sage and an honorable supreme. This should be enough to comfort the souls of the Horizon Wing sect's martyrs. An elder said cautiously. When Chu Kuangren heard that, he glared at him. His gaze was like a bone-piercing cold sword that pierced through the elder's heart. The elder's legs turned to jelly, and he immediately knelt on the ground. I've said too much. Please, Brother Chu, no, sect leader Chu, spare my life. How can the lives of your Shang clan sage and clan leader be enough to compensate for more than 18,000 lives? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Upon hearing that, everyone from the Shang clan knelt on the ground in unison. Their bodies trembled as they were shrouded by a great sense of fear. What did Chu Kuangren mean by that? Had he not killed enough? Would he only be satisfied after wiping out the entire Shang clan? No one dared to ask. Everyone was terrified because they knew that their lives were now in Chu Kuangren's hands. From today onwards, the Shang clan shall take turns to send 10 honorables to the Horizon Wing sect to keep vigil for the dead. They shall obey the Horizon Wing sect's orders for 1,000 years. If anyone disobeys, the Shang clan shall cease to exist. Chu Kuangren said calmly. To him, the Shang clan was no longer a threat. Moreover, the main culprit who released the million tormented souls, Shang Han, was dead. Not only that, but he had also lost a clan leader and a sage. In the battle, the number of Shang clan members who died was uncountable. As for the remaining people, there was no longer any meaning in killing them. It was better to keep them alive to help rebuild the Horizon Wing sect. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they heard that. As long as they were still alive, everything was fine. As for keeping vigil for the Horizon Wing sect's martyrs, obeying the Horizon Wing sect's orders, and becoming their slaves, although that would be a disgrace to the Shang clan, they were too afraid of Chu Kuangren to disobey him. Let's go to the Nimbus city. Chu Kuangren said. Apart from seeking justice for the Horizon Wing sect's dead, the most important reason he came to the Shang clan this time was to find the white-robed general's descendants. News of Chu Kuangren's visit to the Shang clan and his slaying of a sage gradually spread. Many forces were terrified when they learned about it. A year ago, he killed 2 of the Murong clan's sages for Murong Xian. A year later, he returned to the realm and killed a 6-step Shang clan sage for an affiliated force. Chu Kuangren's tyrannical behavior made everyone fearful. However, he always had a reason for his actions, and that was what made everyone helpless. Even if some of the forces wanted to band together to suppress Chu Kuangren, they would not have an excuse. Of course, they could always find an excuse, but the prerequisite was that they had to be able to suppress Chu Kuangren. Among the current sage orthodoxies, not many possessed such strength. Near the ancient battlefield, in the Horizon Wing sect. The Horizon Wing sect's sect master, who had just received news of Chu Kuangren wreaking havoc in the Shang clan, was shocked. He then bowed in the direction of the Black Heaven sect. Sect leader, you're so righteous. Behind him, a group of elders and disciples knelt on the ground and bowed in the direction of the Black Heaven sect. Sect leader, you're so righteous. The sect leader is righteous, Ling Chongkong said worriedly. Sect master, although the sect leader has sought justice for us, won't the sages be jealous of him for killing sages one after another? Won't that cause trouble for him? The sect leader naturally has his reasons for doing what he does. As for the sages being jealous of him, that's for sure. But so what? The Horizon Wing sect master had a look of admiration on his face. If they want to cause trouble for the sect leader, they'll have to weigh their own strength first. Putting aside the fact that the sect leader has a reason for killing a sage, they can't find a reason to go against him. Even if they do, the sect leader's strength is unparalleled. He has the support of the Black Heaven sect, the Royal Azure Dynasty, and the School of White Lotus. Besides that, I heard that the sect leader's reputation is slowly spreading among the Buddhist orthodoxies. Many Buddhist cultivators think that he's a living Buddha. With that, no one would dare to touch the sect leader. The current Chu Kuangren, be it in terms of background or strength, was so terrifying that it could make one's hair stand on end. It was too difficult to deal with him. After the mess that Chu Kuangren had wreaked in the Shang clan, the Horizon Wing sect became even more loyal to the Black Heaven sect. The other affiliated forces were also more determined to cling on to the Black Heaven sect. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.